In the heart of ancient Rome, there lived a goddess whose presence was felt in the whisper of the trees, the rush of the rivers, and the soft glow of the moon. Diana, the goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and moon, captivated the hearts of many with her fierce spirit and unwavering strength. Her story is not just one of power, it is woven with deep emotions and a connection to nature that speaks to the human soul. Diana was known for her beauty, but it was her independence that truly set her apart. Unlike other deities who basked in the company of love and companionship, Diana thrived in solitude, roaming the wild forests and hills with grace and confidence. She carried a bow, a symbol of her prowess, and her quiver was filled with arrows, each one a testament to her skill as a huntress. With her loyal hounds by her side, she navigated the untamed wilderness, embodying the essence of freedom and strength. To her, the woods were not just a place of hunting, they were home. Each rustling leaf and singing bird echoed her spirit, reminding all who dared to enter of the power that dwelled within. But Diana was more than just a huntress. She was a protector of the vulnerable, a guardian of those who could not defend themselves. In a world where mortals often fell prey to the harshness of nature, she stood as a fierce defender. The animals of the forest revered her, feeling safe in her presence. She was the gentle spirit that nurtured the fawns, the fierce warrior who shielded them from harm. In her eyes sparkled the wisdom of the ages, and her heart beat in rhythm with the wild. The moonlight, soft and serene, illuminated her path as she moved gracefully through the night. Diana was known as the goddess of the moon, reflecting its beauty and mystery. Under her watchful gaze, the world transformed. The stars twinkled like diamonds in the sky, and the silver light danced on the water's surface, creating a magical aura. Those who found themselves lost in the woods would often look up, hoping to catch a glimpse of her shining presence, knowing that she was there to guide them home. In Roman mythology, Diana held a special place among the pantheon of gods and goddesses. She was often seen as a counterpart to Apollo, the god of the sun, bringing balance to the day and night. While Apollo represented clarity and light, Diana embodied the shadows and the mysteries of the night. Together, they symbolized the duality of life, the yin and yang that governed existence. This connection made her all the more revered, as she balanced strength with sensitivity. The Romans worshipped Diana not only as a goddess, but also as a figure of empowerment. In her, they saw the embodiment of the fierce and independent spirit, a reflection of their hopes and aspirations. Her followers gathered in her honor, lighting candles and leaving offerings in sacred groves. They shared stories of her bravery and grace, passing them down through generations. To them, she was not just a distant deity, she was a protector, a friend, and a source of inspiration. As the goddess of the hunt, Diana's influence stretched far beyond mere survival. She represented a connection to nature that was deeply woven into the fabric of Roman society. The act of hunting was more than a way to gather food, it was a rite of passage, a test of skill and courage. Young men would seek Diana's favor before embarking on their hunts, praying for her guidance and protection. In her eyes, they found strength, in her spirit, they felt emboldened. Her legacy was not confined to the wilds and the moonlit nights, it seeped into the very hearts of the people. Stories of her adventures spread like wildfire, igniting a sense of wonder and excitement. Tales of her encounters with brave hunters, fierce beasts, and gentle creatures filled the air, captivating all who listened. Each story carried with it a lesson, a whisper of wisdom that resonated with the human experience. Diana's significance in Roman mythology extends far beyond her attributes as a goddess. She represented the wildness within every person, the instinct to protect, and the desire to be free. Her fierce independence reminded everyone that true strength comes from within, and that embracing one's nature is a path to empowerment. Her story invites all to reflect on their connection to the world around them, to appreciate the beauty of nature, and to find courage in their own journeys. As night falls and the moon rises high in the sky, Diana remains a beacon of hope and strength. Her legacy continues to inspire those who seek solace in nature and strength in their own spirits. She whispers through the leaves, calling to those who listen, reminding them of the wild beauty that exists in the world and within themselves. With her bow drawn and eyes fierce, she stands eternal, a guardian of the wild, a symbol of independence, and a reminder of the magic that lives in the heart of every wanderer. In the quiet valleys and dense forests of ancient Greece, where the sun kissed the earth with golden light, there lived a hunter named Actaeon. He was known far and wide for his extraordinary skill and keen instincts, but it was his lineage that set him apart. Born to Aristeus, the god of the hunt and agriculture, and Autonoe, a mortal princess, Actaeon was destined for greatness. His blood flowed with the essence of the divine, giving him unmatched abilities and a spirit that thrived in the wild. Actaeon grew up surrounded by the whispers of the forest, where he learned the ways of nature from an early age. The thrill of the chase ignited a fire within him, and his heart raced at the thought of pursuing elusive prey. He became one with the wild, moving silently through the underbrush, blending in with the environment like a shadow. With every hunt, he honed his skills, mastering the art of tracking and archery. His hands became steady, his eyes sharp, and his heart strong. His reputation as a hunter spread like wildfire across the land. Friends and foes alike spoke of his prowess, and many young men looked up to him as a role model. Villagers marveled at his daring spirit and bravery, sharing tales of his most remarkable hunts. With a bow slung over his shoulder and a quiver full of arrows, he became a symbol of strength and determination. Actaeon was not just a hunter, he was a legend in the making. Every day, he ventured into the woods, following the winding trails of deer and the faint scents left behind by wild boar. The thrill of the hunt coursed through his veins, fueling his passion and igniting his desire to become the best. But for Actaeon, hunting was more than a pursuit. It was a sacred bond with the land and its creatures. He respected the rhythms of nature, understanding that each life he took was part of a greater cycle. He never hunted for mere sport, he hunted for survival, for the community, and for the love of the wild. As he roamed the forests, Actaeon felt a deep connection to the land. Each rustling leaf and chirping bird seemed to call to him, welcoming him into their world. The towering trees stood like guardians, their branches stretching high towards the heavens. He found solace in the serenity of the wilderness, where the sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. In those moments, he felt truly alive, embracing the beauty and danger of the wild. Yet, beneath his confident exterior lay a heart full of dreams. Actaeon aspired to be recognized as one of the greatest hunters of all time, to carve his name in the annals of history. He yearned for the respect of the gods and mortals alike, hoping to one day earn a place among the stars. His ambition drove him, pushing him to take risks and challenge himself beyond his limits. Actaeon's skill and bravery were put to the test time and time again. He faced fierce beasts and navigated treacherous terrains, always emerging victorious. His heart swelled with pride when he returned home with tales of his conquests, presenting the fruits of his labor to his family and friends. Their admiration fueled his passion, igniting a fire that burned bright within him. Yet, despite his triumphs, there was a lingering restlessness in his soul. He sought something more than just glory. He longed for the thrill of the unknown, for the chance to encounter the divine. He had heard whispers of Diana, the goddess of the hunt, who roamed the same woods he loved so dearly. Tales of her beauty and power stirred something deep within him, a yearning to be in her presence and perhaps earn her favor. He dreamed of the day he might catch a glimpse of her, a moment that could change his life forever. Actaeon's desire to encounter Diana became an obsession, a longing that drew him deeper into the wild. He believed that to meet her would elevate him beyond a mere mortal. It would connect him to the divine, solidifying his place in the world of gods and heroes. Each hunt felt like a step closer to that dream, a chance to prove himself worthy of her attention. As he ventured further into the forests, Actaeon felt the weight of destiny on his shoulders. With every arrow he loosed and every path he tread, he believed he was being watched by the gods. The forest was alive with whispers, secrets hidden in the rustling leaves and babbling brooks. He couldn't shake the feeling that his fate was entwined with that of the goddess he admired so deeply. However, the woods are filled with unexpected twists, and fate can be a cruel mistress. Actaeon's journey, marked by his dreams and ambitions, was about to take a turn he could never have anticipated. The winds of change began to swirl around him, hinting at the tumultuous encounter that awaited. The thrill of the hunt, once exhilarating, was about to become a harbinger of doom. As Actaeon stepped into the shadows of the forest, unaware of the destiny that loomed ahead, he was both a hunter and a hunted. The heart that once beat with pride and determination now raced with the anticipation of the unknown. In his pursuit of greatness, he was unaware of the thin line between admiration and disrespect, between the divine and the mortal. The hunt had just begun, and the outcome would forever alter the course of his life. The wilderness where Diana roamed was not just a backdrop, it was a living, breathing entity filled with magic and mystery. Towering trees stood like ancient guardians, their gnarled branches reaching toward the sky, creating a natural cathedral of leaves and sunlight. Each tree, with its rough bark and vibrant green foliage, whispered tales of forgotten times. The air was filled with the earthy scent of damp soil and blooming wildflowers, a fragrant invitation to all who entered this enchanted realm. As you walked through the forest, the soft crunch of leaves and twigs underfoot blended with the distant sound of flowing water. Streams meandered through the landscape, their clear waters sparkling like jewels in the sunlight. Here, nature painted a picture of tranquility, where the worries of the world faded away. The gentle babble of the streams created a soothing melody, a lullaby that lulled the forest into a peaceful slumber. It was a place where time seemed to stand still, where every rustle of the leaves and call of the birds felt like a sacred moment. In the heart of this wilderness, wildflowers blossomed in a riot of colors, dancing in the breeze like joyful spirits. The petals shimmered in the sunlight, inviting bees and butterflies to join in the celebration of life. Each bloom held a story, a reminder of the beauty and fragility of existence. The flowers swayed gently, as if echoing the laughter of the goddess who wandered among them. Diana was not just a goddess of the hunt, she was the embodiment of the wild. The animals that inhabited this landscape revered her, for she was their protector and friend. Stags grazed peacefully in the meadows, their majestic antlers adorned like crowns of kings. They moved gracefully through the underbrush, aware of the goddess's watchful gaze. Rabbits darted playfully, while birds sang sweetly from their perches, creating a symphony of life that filled the air with joy. The landscape shifted with the seasons, each bringing its own beauty and challenges. In spring, the forest burst into life, with new growth and vibrant colors painting the scenery. Summer welcomed the sun, bathing the woods in warmth, where Diana often hunted with her nymphs, laughter echoing as they raced through the trees. Autumn transformed the forest into a tapestry of reds, oranges, and yellows, leaves falling like confetti, celebrating the cycle of life. And in winter, a blanket of snow hushed the world, creating a serene silence that wrapped the wilderness in a gentle embrace. Nature played a vital role in mythology, serving as both a backdrop for divine encounters and a symbol of deeper truths. The wilderness was a space where mortals could connect with the gods, a bridge between the earthly realm and the divine. In the stillness of the forest, one could hear the whispers of the gods, feel their presence in the rustling leaves, and sense their power in the strength of the trees. It was a sacred ground where the lines between humanity and divinity blurred, inviting all who entered to reflect on their place in the world. The forest was alive with lessons, each creature and plant offering wisdom. The swift stag taught the importance of grace and agility, while the strong bear symbolized strength and courage. The delicate flowers reminded all of the beauty and fragility, urging respect for the delicate balance of life. Nature was not just a backdrop but a teacher, guiding mortals toward understanding their connection to the world around them. In this wilderness, Diana embodied the spirit of freedom and independence. She roamed with the confidence of a queen, a protector of both the land and its inhabitants. Her laughter echoed through the trees, a melody that brought life to the forest and joy to its creatures. The very essence of the wilderness pulsated with her energy, a dance of life and death, beauty and chaos. It was here that she forged her identity as a fierce protector and nurturer of the wild. The importance of nature in mythology extended beyond mere symbolism. The wilderness represented a sanctuary for the weary, a place to seek solace and healing. It offered a refuge from the chaos of everyday life, where one could reconnect with their true self. In the embrace of the wild, mortals found clarity and strength, often seeking Diana's guidance in times of need. The goddess understood the struggles of the heart and soul, offering comfort through the gentle rustle of leaves and the serene flow of water. The wilderness held stories of transformation and rebirth, reminding all who entered that life is a journey of constant change. Just as the seasons shifted, so too did the lives of those who dared to walk the forest paths. The trees, with their sturdy trunks and expansive roots, stood as reminders of resilience. They weathered storms and droughts, standing tall and proud through the trials of life. Their silent strength inspired all who gazed upon them, urging mortals to embrace their challenges with courage. Diana, as the guardian of this sacred space, embodied the harmony between humanity and nature. She taught that the wilderness is not to be feared but revered. It is a source of nourishment, both for the body and the spirit. The connection to nature fostered empathy and understanding, encouraging mortals to respect the lives of all creatures, big and small. In her presence, hunters learned to honor the animals they pursued, understanding the delicate balance that sustained life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the landscape, the forest transformed into a magical realm. Shadows danced playfully, and the first stars began to twinkle in the evening sky. This was Diana's time, the moment when the wilderness truly came alive. Under the blanket of night, the forest whispered secrets, inviting all to listen and reflect on the beauty that surrounded them. The wilderness, with all its wonder and mystery, was not just a setting for Diana's adventures. It was an integral part of her identity, a testament to the power of nature and its influence on the hearts of those who dared to enter. In the embrace of the wild, both mortals and gods found their true selves, woven together in a tapestry of life, love, and endless possibility. In the heart of ancient Rome, where the hustle of daily life met the whispers of the divine, there existed a deep and abiding reverence for the goddess Diana. Her worship was not just a practice, it was a celebration of life, nature, and the bonds that connected all living things. People from all walks of life gathered to honor her, believing that in doing so, they were connecting with the very essence of the wild. Temples dedicated to Diana stood as sanctuaries, places where the sacred met the everyday. These structures were often built in remote locations, nestled within lush forests or atop serene hills, where the air was filled with the scent of earth and the songs of birds. As you approached, you could feel the energy pulsing through the ground, a gentle reminder of the goddess's presence. The entrance was adorned with beautiful carvings of animals, trees, and stars, each detail telling a story of Diana's spirit and the beauty of the wilderness she protected. Inside the temples, worshippers would gather, their hearts filled with hope and gratitude. They brought offerings of fruits, flowers, and herbs, laying them at the feet of her statue, which stood tall and proud, a symbol of strength and grace. Candles flickered in the dim light, casting a warm glow that illuminated the space. The air was thick with the scent of incense, swirling around like the prayers of those who sought her favor. The atmosphere was charged with emotion, a palpable connection between the divine and the mortals who came to honor her. One of the most significant aspects of worship was the festivals held in Diana's name. These celebrations were vibrant and joyous, bringing communities together in a shared expression of love and devotion. Each year, on the Ides of August, people flocked to her temples to participate in the Nemeralia festival, a time when the goddess of the hunt was honored with music, dance, and feasting. The forests surrounding the temples came alive with laughter and song as families and friends gathered to celebrate the bounty of nature. During the festivities, women often wore crowns made of wildflowers, symbolizing their connection to the earth and their role as nurturers. The men, adorned with garlands of leaves, honored the strength and bravery that Diana embodied. Together, they would create a procession, walking through the woods as they sang hymns to the goddess, their voices rising in harmony with the rustling leaves above. The bond between humanity and nature was palpable, a testament to the belief that Diana watched over them, guiding and protecting them in their daily lives. As night fell, the atmosphere shifted. The flickering torches cast dancing shadows on the trees, and the sounds of the forest became a backdrop to the reverent chants. Offerings were made at the sacred springs, where the water sparkled under the moonlight, believed to be blessed by Diana herself. This act of devotion was a plea for protection, fertility, and guidance, ensuring that the balance between the wild and the civilized remained intact. Diana's role in Roman society went beyond that of a mere huntress. She represented the fierce independence that many sought to embody in their lives. Her spirit resonated with those who felt constrained by the expectations of society. Women found in her a powerful symbol of freedom, embracing the idea that they could be strong and fierce like the goddess. They sought her favor in matters of love, fertility, and strength, believing that her blessings would empower them in their own lives. The goddess was also revered as a protector of the vulnerable. Those who wandered into the wilderness found solace in her presence, believing that she would guide them safely back home. Farmers offered prayers to Diana, asking for a bountiful harvest, recognizing the delicate balance between humanity and nature. The goddess embodied the harmony that existed in the world, a reminder that all living things were interconnected and deserved respect. As Diana's influence grew, so did the practices surrounding her worship. The idea of the hunt evolved into a celebration of the wild itself. Hunters would often seek her blessings before embarking on their expeditions, believing that she would grant them success in their pursuits. They understood that the hunt was not merely about conquest, it was a communion with nature, a way to honor the life that surrounded them. This reverence transformed the act of hunting into a sacred ritual, where each arrow loosed and each animal caught was done with gratitude. The communities that worshipped Diana were bound by a shared understanding of the wilderness. They recognized the importance of living in harmony with the land, and their festivals celebrated the changing seasons and the cycles of life. These traditions were passed down through generations, creating a rich tapestry of culture and belief. In honoring Diana, they were also honoring their ancestors, keeping alive the connection to the earth and the teachings that came from it. Even in the face of challenges and changes in society, Diana's influence remained steadfast. As the Romans expanded their empire and encountered new cultures, her worship adapted, incorporating elements from other traditions. The goddess became a symbol of resilience, embodying the spirit of the wild that could not be tamed or extinguished. The people who worshipped her continued to hold onto the belief that nature was a sacred gift, one that deserved to be cherished and protected. In the quiet moments of reflection, as the stars twinkled above and the forest hummed with life, Diana's spirit could be felt everywhere. The soft rustling of leaves and the distant call of an owl served as reminders of her watchful presence. She was a goddess who understood the struggles of the human heart, who walked with her followers through their joys and sorrows. In her embrace, they found strength, solace, and a profound connection to the earth that nourished them. Diana was more than just a figure in mythology, she was a lifeline to the wild, a protector of all living things. Her worship created a community that thrived on the values of respect, gratitude, and harmony with nature. In the hearts of those who honored her, she became a beacon of hope and strength, reminding them that they were never alone. Through their devotion, they not only celebrated her, but also celebrated the essence of life itself, a testament to the enduring power of the wild and the bonds that connect us all. Hunting has always held a special place in the hearts of ancient cultures, representing much more than just a means of survival. It was a powerful symbol of strength, skill, and connection to the divine. As hunters ventured into the wild, they did so with a mixture of fear and reverence, understanding that each hunt was an act that bridged the gap between humanity and the gods. In the depths of the forest, the hunters felt the weight of their ancestors watching over them, urging them to honor the animals they pursued and the land that nourished them. In many ancient societies, hunting was surrounded by rituals that highlighted its sacred nature. Before a hunt, families would gather to offer prayers and sacrifices, seeking the blessings of deities like Diana. They would light candles and incense, creating an atmosphere thick with devotion. These moments of connection allowed hunters to express their gratitude for the animals they would encounter and to seek guidance for a successful hunt. It was a recognition that the forest was not merely a place to take, but a realm that required respect and care. The hunt itself was an intense experience, filled with adrenaline and anticipation. As the hunters moved quietly through the underbrush, the thrill of the chase electrified the air. Every sound, a rustle of leaves, a snap of a twig, heightened their senses, reminding them that they were not alone. The forest seemed to breathe with them, alive with possibilities. This was a dance between predator and prey, a test of skill and intuition that required both patience and courage. In the midst of this pursuit, hunters would often call upon Diana for protection and favor. They believed that she walked beside them, guiding their arrows and sharpening their instincts. When a hunter successfully brought down their prey, it was seen as a sign of the goddess's approval. The joy of the hunt was not solely in the victory, but in the acknowledgement of the bond forged between the hunter, the hunted, and the divine. Every kill was a reminder of the cycle of life, a sacred exchange where the hunter offered gratitude for the sustenance provided. The relationship between hunters and their deities was built on mutual respect. Hunters understood that taking a life was not something to be done lightly. It was a responsibility, one that demanded awareness of the delicate balance within nature. This understanding deepened their connection to the land, reinforcing the belief that the wild was not just a resource but a living entity deserving of reverence. In their prayers and rituals, they expressed a commitment to protecting the environment, ensuring that future generations could continue to honor the same traditions. Hunting stories were passed down through generations, filled with lessons about bravery, humility, and gratitude. These tales captured the essence of the hunt, turning it into a rite of passage. Young hunters learned the ways of the forest from their elders, absorbing the wisdom that came from years of experience. The bond between a mentor and mentee was sacred, marked by shared laughter, whispered secrets, and quiet moments of reflection. As they ventured into the wilderness together, they forged connections that would last a lifetime, both with each other and with the land. The thrill of the hunt was not just about the chase, it was also about the communal aspect that followed. When a hunter returned home with their catch, the entire community would come together to celebrate. Feasts were held, filled with laughter, stories, and songs that echoed through the night. The shared meals became a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of life. The animals that were hunted were honored in ceremonies that celebrated their spirit and contribution to the community's well-being. This communal aspect transformed the hunt into a celebration of life itself, a reminder that every moment is precious. The symbolism of hunting also extended into the realm of power. Successful hunters were often revered in their communities, seen as figures of strength and skill. Their prowess in the wild earned them respect, and their ability to provide for their families elevated their status. This connection between hunting and power was not solely about dominance, it was also about responsibility. With power came the obligation to protect and provide, to ensure the balance between taking and giving. In the context of Diana's worship, hunting served as a way to connect with the goddess and the ideals she represented. She embodied the strength of the hunt, the beauty of nature, and the sacredness of life. To worship her was to embrace these qualities, to live with intention and awareness. The hunt became a powerful metaphor for navigating life's challenges, teaching hunters that they must face their fears with courage, trust their instincts, and honor the forces that guide them. The rituals surrounding hunting also emphasized the importance of community. Hunters would return to their families, sharing stories of their experiences and lessons learned in the forest. These gatherings fostered a sense of belonging, reminding everyone that they were part of something larger. The bonds formed in these moments created a fabric of support and understanding that stretched across generations. In this way, the hunt became a catalyst for connection, reminding individuals that their actions had the power to influence the lives of those around them. In many cultures, hunting was seen as a way to confront the unknown. Each journey into the wilderness was an opportunity to face fears, embrace uncertainty, and emerge stronger. The thrill of the chase mirrored the challenges of life, where success was never guaranteed, but the lessons learned along the way were invaluable. As hunters navigated the wild, they encountered not only the animals they pursued, but also their own limitations and strengths. This inner journey transformed the act of hunting into a rite of passage, a sacred exploration of what it means to be human. The legacy of hunting as a symbol of power and connection to the divine resonates through time. In the hearts of those who participated in these ancient rituals, the spirit of the hunt lives on, reminding them of their place in the world. It embodies a way of life that honors the delicate balance between taking and giving, between strength and humility. Through the hunt, they connected with nature, the community, and the divine, creating a tapestry of life woven together by respect, gratitude, and love. As the sun set and the forest grew quiet, the echoes of the hunt remained in the air, a reminder of the sacred bond between humanity and the wild. The hunters returned to their homes, carrying with them the weight of their experiences and the stories of their ancestors. Each step through the woods felt like a heartbeat, a reminder that they were part of something greater than themselves. In honoring the hunt, they honored the goddess who guided them and the land that sustained them, forging a legacy that would be cherished for generations to come. Fate and destiny have long held a powerful sway over the stories of humanity, weaving their threads through the fabric of mythology. From ancient times, people have looked to the gods and the stars, seeking understanding of the forces that govern their lives. In many myths, fate is seen as an unyielding force, a path laid out long before the heroes even take their first steps. Destiny, on the other hand, often embodies the choices that individuals make along the way, a dance between free will and the greater design of the universe. The themes of fate and destiny echo through the ages, reminding us that our lives are a complex tapestry of events and choices, often interwoven in ways we cannot fully grasp. In the world of mythology, these concepts are rarely black and white. They are often depicted as entwined, leaving characters grappling with the weight of their actions and the circumstances that shape their lives. The stories of gods and mortals alike serve as poignant reminders of the delicate balance between control and surrender, illustrating that every decision can lead to unforeseen consequences. Actaeon's story is a poignant reflection of these themes. As a skilled hunter, he was admired for his prowess and celebrated for his achievements. He represented the ideal of the brave hunter, navigating the wilderness with confidence and skill. However, despite his talents, Actaeon was also a man caught in the throes of fate, his life dictated by forces beyond his control. The moment he stumbled upon Diana while she bathed in the sacred waters, the threads of fate began to tighten around him, weaving a tragic tapestry that would ultimately lead to his doom. In this moment, the intersection of fate and choice became starkly evident. Actaeon did not intend to intrude upon the goddess. His discovery was a chance encounter, one that would alter the course of his life forever. Yet, the consequences of this moment were beyond his comprehension. In the blink of an eye, the hunter became the hunted, transformed into a stag by the wrath of Diana. The transformation was not just physical, it represented a shift in destiny, a point where Actaeon's identity and essence were stripped away, leaving him vulnerable and exposed. The tragedy of Actaeon lies in his struggle against fate. He was not merely a victim of circumstance, he faced a harsh reality where his fate was sealed by the very act that defined him as a hunter. The irony is palpable. His skills, which once brought him admiration and respect, now rendered him powerless. The very traits that elevated him in the eyes of his community became the catalyst for his downfall. In this way, Actaeon's story serves as a somber reminder of how easily fate can shift, turning triumph into tragedy in an instant. As Actaeon fled from the hounds he once commanded, he became acutely aware of the fragility of life. The thrill of the hunt, which had once filled him with pride, morphed into a frantic struggle for survival. Each bark of the dogs echoed the relentless march of fate, a haunting reminder that no amount of skill or bravado could alter his destiny. The once mighty hunter was reduced to a creature on the run, pursued by those who had once revered him. The relationship between Actaeon and the deities he sought to honor further complicates the narrative of fate. His encounter with Diana highlights the capricious nature of divine will. In many myths, gods and goddesses wield immense power, and their actions often reflect the whims of their emotions. Diana, as the goddess of the hunt, represented both protection and vengeance. Her fury was swift and merciless, a manifestation of the boundaries that must not be crossed. Actaeon's intrusion shattered those boundaries, setting in motion a series of events that would culminate in his tragic fate. The themes of fate and destiny in Actaeon's story resonate deeply, touching on universal human experiences. The hunter's struggle is one we all face at various points in our lives, the feeling of being swept away by forces beyond our control, the recognition that our choices can have profound and unintended consequences. Actaeon serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that while we may strive for greatness and seek to carve our paths, there are moments when fate intervenes, reshaping our lives in ways we could never anticipate. As he transformed into a stag, Actaeon's fate became painfully clear. He could no longer speak or fight back. His identity was stripped away, leaving only instinct. The wildness of the forest became both his refuge and his prison. He could feel the earth beneath his hooves, the freedom of the wilderness, yet he was hunted, chased by the very beings he once commanded. The once heroic figure was reduced to a trembling creature, caught in the tragic irony of a fate he never sought. In the end, Actaeon's story unfolds as a heartbreaking exploration of the interplay between fate and destiny. His legacy lives on, not as a celebrated hunter, but as a poignant reminder of the unpredictability of life. He embodies the struggle between ambition and humility, the delicate balance between human desire and the capriciousness of the divine. The very essence of his being, once a symbol of power and skill, became a testament to the inevitability of fate, a force that can transform heroes into victims in the blink of an eye. In the heart of every myth, the themes of fate and destiny serve as reflections of our own journeys. We, too, navigate the complexities of life, grappling with the unknown and seeking understanding amidst chaos. Like Actaeon, we may find ourselves at crossroads, where our choices intertwine with forces beyond our grasp. His story remains etched in the annals of mythology, a touching reminder that in the grand tapestry of life, we are all threads woven together by fate, our destinies shaped by the choices we make and the mysteries we encounter along the way. Actaeon was not just any hunter, he was a legend in his own right. The forests and mountains whispered his name, each tree and stone echoing the tales of his incredible prowess. His heart beat in rhythm with the wild, and his spirit was intertwined with the beauty of nature. Every sunrise found him out among the trees, bow in hand, driven by a thirst for adventure and the joy of the hunt. His laughter rang out like music as he tracked deer through the underbrush, each footfall a testament to his skill and determination. Yet beneath this joyful exterior, there lay an insatiable desire for greatness, a yearning to be remembered not just as a hunter but as a hero. Actaeon's motivations were steeped in more than mere survival. He sought the thrill of the chase, the adrenaline that surged through his veins as he closed in on his prey. With every hunt, he envisioned stories to be told, glories to be shared. He dreamt of being honored among the greatest, etched into the hearts of his people as a symbol of strength and courage. The woods were his canvas, and each hunt painted a new masterpiece. However, this pursuit was not without its shadows. In his quest for recognition, Actaeon occasionally forgot the respect that should accompany such power. He believed his skill would earn him the favor of the gods, especially Diana, the goddess of the hunt, but he did not realize that such ambition could easily turn to hubris. On that fateful day, the sun shone bright and golden, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The scent of pine filled the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp leaves. Actaeon stood at the edge of a glade, feeling the pulse of the forest around him. It was a perfect day for hunting, and the thrill of the chase beckoned him forward. His senses heightened as he entered the thick foliage, moving quietly through the underbrush. Each rustle of leaves and chirp of birds seemed to cheer him on, urging him deeper into the wild. As he ventured further, Actaeon's thoughts raced. He imagined the accolades that would come from a successful hunt, the praise from friends and family. He longed to share tales of bravery around the fire, the warmth of camaraderie filling the night. With every step, his heart swelled with anticipation. He felt invincible, like a force of nature destined to leave a mark on the world. However, fate had other plans. As he maneuvered through the trees, he felt an unusual energy in the air. The forest grew quiet, the usual sounds fading into an eerie stillness. It was as if the very woods were holding their breath, aware of the monumental moment that was about to unfold. Actaeon shrugged off the feeling, convinced that it was simply his imagination. He continued forward, determination written across his face. The deeper he went, the more the atmosphere shifted. The sunlight flickered through the leaves, casting shadows that danced around him. Each step felt both exhilarating and foreboding, like a melody that swayed between beauty and danger. Actaeon pressed on, driven by a sense of urgency that he could not fully understand. He felt drawn to something, an invisible force guiding him deeper into the heart of the forest. With every stride, he felt his connection to the land strengthen. The whispers of the trees became clearer, the scent of wildflowers more intoxicating. Actaeon relished in the moment, feeling the pulse of life around him. He believed that he was on the brink of greatness, unaware that greatness can sometimes come at a steep price. His heart raced with excitement as he navigated the landscape, convinced that fortune favored the bold. Suddenly, he heard the gentle splash of water nearby. Curious, he approached cautiously, his instincts sharpening as he neared the edge of a secluded glade. The sight that met his eyes took his breath away. Before him was a crystalline pool, shimmering in the sunlight, surrounded by lush greenery. The beauty of the scene was breathtaking, almost otherworldly. Actaeon felt his heart swell with awe. This was a sacred place, untouched and pure. As he gazed into the water, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over him. In that moment, he felt a connection to something greater than himself. Yet, as he stood there, transfixed by the serenity of the scene, an unexpected impulse took hold. Driven by the thrill of discovery and the desire to capture this moment, he stepped closer, peering into the depths of the pool. It was then that he saw her, Diana, the goddess of the hunt, radiant and ethereal, bathing in the shimmering waters. Time stood still as he absorbed the sight before him. She was a vision of grace, her beauty untouched by the passage of time. Her hair glistened like spun silver, cascading down her back as the sunlight danced upon her skin. Actaeon's heart raced, a mix of wonder and awe flooding through him. Here was the goddess he had long revered, a figure of legend brought to life. Yet, this moment of wonder was quickly tainted by a chilling realization. The innocent thrill of a hunter had morphed into something more dangerous. He had crossed a line, intruding into a sacred moment meant only for the goddess. The air crackled with tension as he stood frozen in shock, a mix of emotions flooding his heart. Actaeon had long dreamed of greatness, but now he faced the terrifying consequences of his actions. In that instant, everything changed. The thrill of the hunt transformed into a feeling of dread. The very ground beneath him seemed to tremble as he stood before Diana, unaware that his presence would set off a chain of events that would seal his fate. Actaeon felt the weight of the world crashing down around him, the realization dawning that ambition and desire could lead to a devastating end. As Diana turned, her gaze piercing through the stillness, Actaeon knew he had trespassed in the most profound way. The goddess's eyes held a tempest of emotions, surprise, anger, and a fierce protectiveness over her sacred space. In that brief moment, Actaeon understood the gravity of his actions. He was no longer just a hunter. He was now a man on the brink of losing everything he held dear. The encounter that began with excitement and ambition quickly spiraled into chaos. Actaeon stood at a crossroads, trapped between the dreams he had chased and the harsh reality of what his intrusion meant. The forest, once his ally, now felt like a prison closing in around him. With every heartbeat, the thrill of the hunt faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of impending doom. This was not merely a moment of misfortune, it was a profound reminder of the consequences that come with crossing boundaries. Actaeon, driven by ambition, had wandered into the divine realm, and now he stood to pay the price. What began as a promising day for a hunter would soon unravel into a tale of tragedy and loss, forever etched in the annals of mythology. In the heart of ancient Italy lies a place steeped in mystery and magic, the Forest of Nemi. This enchanting woodland, known for its lush greenery and serene beauty, was more than just a backdrop for myths. It was a sacred sanctuary where the divine and the mortal often intertwined. It whispered secrets of gods and legends, offering solace and inspiration to those who dared to wander its paths. The air was rich with the scent of earth and foliage, and the sun filtered through the thick canopy, casting dappled shadows on the ground below. Each rustle of leaves seemed to echo with stories of old, and the gentle babbling of nearby streams added a melodic undertone to the symphony of nature. The Forest of Nemi held a special significance in both mythology and history. It was sacred to Diana, the goddess of the hunt, who was revered not only for her connection to the wild, but also as a protector of women and children. This forest became a realm where she roamed freely, overseeing the delicate balance of nature. It was said that her presence imbued the forest with a magical quality, a sense of life and vitality that drew both mortals and creatures alike. Those who ventured into the woods often felt a profound connection to the divine, sensing that they were part of something much larger than themselves. Legend spoke of the sacred grove within the forest, a place where rituals were performed to honor Diana. Here, priestesses would gather, their voices rising in song to appease the goddess and seek her blessings. The forest was not just a physical space, it was a living testament to the bond between humanity and the divine. The trees stood tall as guardians, their branches reaching out as if to embrace all who entered. The sunlight filtering through the leaves created a dance of light and shadow, and it was easy to lose oneself in the beauty of the surroundings. As the sun began to set, the forest of Nemi transformed into a realm of magic and wonder. The vibrant greens of the day faded into deeper hues, and the sounds of the forest changed, becoming more mysterious. Night creatures stirred, filling the air with their calls. The gentle rustle of the wind seemed to carry whispers from the past, stories of those who had come before, and encounters that had shaped the fate of many. It was in this ethereal setting that the encounter between Actaeon and Diana would unfold, a meeting that would echo through the ages. The path leading into the heart of the forest was a tapestry of life. Wildflowers bloomed in a riot of colors, their delicate petals swaying gently in the breeze. Towering trees lined the way, their gnarled roots creating natural arches and inviting shadows that danced upon the forest floor. The sounds of trickling water mingled with the rustling of leaves, creating a calming symphony that wrapped around all who ventured into its depths. Each step taken felt like a dance with nature, a celebration of life that pulsated through the very air. The forest was also a keeper of secrets, a place where the boundary between the known and the unknown blurred. Many believed that those who entered with pure hearts would be rewarded, while those with darker intentions would face the wrath of the divine. This duality added an air of tension to the serene beauty. The forest was both a sanctuary and a place of peril. It was a reminder that every action carried weight, that choices made in moments of passion could lead to unforeseen consequences. As Actaeon made his way deeper into the woods, he felt the energy of the forest enveloping him. The thrill of the hunt coursed through his veins, but he remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. Each footfall echoed in the silence, resonating with the heartbeat of the earth. The beauty of the forest held him captive, drawing him closer to a fate that awaited just beyond the next bend. He marveled at the lush foliage, the vibrant life surrounding him, his heart filled with the promise of adventure. But beneath the surface of this enchanting place lay a darkness, a reminder of the consequences of crossing sacred boundaries. The forest of Nemi had witnessed countless encounters between gods and mortals, and each had its own tale of love, loss, and transformation. Actaeon's journey through this magical landscape was a testament to the complexities of desire and ambition, a foreshadowing of the encounter that would forever change his destiny. In this sacred grove, Diana's spirit reigned supreme, and her watchful eyes observed all who dared enter. The tranquility of the setting belied the tumultuous emotions swirling within. The goddess's connection to this forest was deep and profound. It was a part of her essence, just as she was a part of it. The flora and fauna thrived under her protection, embodying the very spirit of life that she nurtured. As twilight descended, the atmosphere shifted once more. The beauty of the forest took on an otherworldly glow, the shadows growing longer, more pronounced. The forest seemed to breathe, alive with anticipation. Actaeon, caught in his own world of dreams and ambitions, was blissfully unaware that the moment he had longed for was drawing near, one that would intertwine his fate with that of Diana's in a way he could never have imagined. In the sacredness of the forest of Nemi, the stage was set for an encounter that would echo through the ages. Each tree, each stone, and every whisper of the wind bore witness to the unfolding drama of life, death, and the inextricable ties between the mortal and the divine. This was a place of magic and mystery, where beauty intertwined with danger, and the spirit of the hunt resonated in every corner. Actaeon's heart raced as he felt the pull of destiny, unaware that the very beauty of the forest would soon become the backdrop for a tragedy that would shape his legacy forever. In the quiet embrace of the forest of Nemi, a sacred ritual unfolded, one that filled the air with a sense of reverence and beauty. Diana, the goddess of the hunt, stood at the edge of a crystal-clear pool, its surface shimmering like glass under the soft light of the sun. Water has always held a special place in mythology, a symbol of purity and renewal, and for Diana, it was a vital element that connected her to the essence of life. As she prepared for her ritual, a profound stillness enveloped the area. The birds stopped their singing, and even the gentle rustling of leaves seemed to pause, as if the forest itself held its breath in anticipation. Diana's nymphs, her devoted companions, gathered around her, their eyes bright with excitement and respect. They moved gracefully, their laughter mingling with the sounds of nature, a joyous melody that resonated through the woods. Each nymph was like a living embodiment of the forest, vibrant and full of life, with hair flowing like rivers and skin kissed by the sun. The ritual of bathing was more than just a cleansing, it was a celebration of life, an offering to the goddess and the natural world around them. As they approached the pool, the sunlight danced on the water, casting glimmers that sparkled like tiny stars. Diana stepped forward, her heart swelling with love for her nymphs and the purity of the moment. The water reflected not only their physical forms, but also their spirits, shining brightly in harmony with nature. With each step into the cool water, a sense of tranquility washed over Diana and her nymphs. The refreshing embrace of the water felt like a balm for their souls, soothing the weariness that often accompanied their duties as protectors of the forest. They submerged themselves, their laughter echoing off the trees, creating ripples that spread across the surface of the pool. It was a moment of freedom, where worries melted away, and the weight of the world faded into nothingness. As the nymphs splashed water at each other playfully, they sang ancient hymns that celebrated their bond with Diana and the forest. Their voices intertwined, creating a hauntingly beautiful melody that seemed to awaken the very essence of the woods. The sound resonated with the heartbeat of the earth, filling the air with a magic that only those who truly believed could perceive. In this sacred space, the significance of water came alive. It was not merely a physical element, but a symbol of transformation and purity. Water held the power to cleanse not only the body but also the spirit. Diana understood this deeply. Every droplet was a reminder of the cycle of life, the ebb and flow of existence. As the goddess bathed, she could feel the weight of her responsibilities lifting, replaced by a profound sense of connection to all that surrounded her. With each splash, the nymphs called upon the spirits of the forest, invoking their blessings. The water sparkled with enchantment as it embraced them, a testament to the purity they sought. Each nymph, a reflection of the forest's beauty, danced beneath the water's surface, their joy radiating outward, touching every living creature nearby. It was a moment that transcended time, where the boundaries between the divine and the mortal blurred. Diana, in her graceful movements, became one with the water. As she floated, the sun cast a warm glow around her, illuminating her form like a goddess emerging from the depths of a dream. Her long hair streamed behind her like tendrils of the night sky, and her skin glistened with droplets that sparkled like diamonds. In that moment, she was not just a goddess of the hunt, but a symbol of life, love, and the beauty of nature. As the bathing ritual continued, a feeling of unity filled the air. The nymphs gathered close, their hands intertwined, forming a circle around Diana. They closed their eyes, allowing the tranquility of the moment to envelop them. With the forest as their witness, they whispered prayers of gratitude, asking for protection and strength in their roles as guardians of the wilderness. They sought Diana's guidance, hoping to embody her spirit in all their actions. The water splashed and shimmered, reflecting the sunlight in a dazzling display that felt almost magical. Each droplet seemed to carry a piece of their hopes and dreams, merging with the essence of the forest. They felt invincible in their connection to the goddess, a bond that transcended mere words. Together, they were unstoppable, a force of nature united by love and devotion. As the ritual came to a close, the nymphs emerged from the water, their laughter ringing out like music through the trees. They felt renewed, their spirits lifted and their hearts open. Diana watched her nymphs with pride, knowing they were more than just companions, they were an extension of her being. Each one embodied the qualities of the forest: strength, beauty, and grace. The water had not only cleansed their bodies, it had washed away doubts and fears. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, empowered by their connection to the goddess and the sacred nature surrounding them. The forest, alive with magic, echoed their joy, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Diana stood at the edge of the pool, the sunlight glinting off her wet skin, a testament to the power of the ritual. In that moment, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that the spirit of the forest was alive within her and her nymphs. They were protectors, guardians of the wild, and they would honor the traditions that bound them together. The connection they shared was powerful, a reminder that love and nature could conquer even the darkest of fears. As they prepared to leave the water's edge, the bond between them felt stronger than ever. The beauty of the ritual lingered in the air, a reminder of the importance of purity and unity in their lives. In the depths of the forest of Nemi, they were more than just mortals. They were a part of something greater, a tapestry woven with threads of life, love, and the enduring spirit of nature. This was their home, their sanctuary, and together they would protect it, guided by the wisdom of Diana and the magic of the water that flowed through their souls. The sun hung high in the sky, casting warm rays through the thick canopy of trees in the forest of Nemi. Actaeon, a skilled hunter known for his prowess and keen instincts, roamed these woods, feeling an undeniable thrill as he tracked the elusive creatures of the wild. His heart raced with the excitement of the hunt, and his senses were finely attuned to the whispers of the forest. Yet, beneath that thrill lay a hint of something deeper, a longing for something beyond the hunt, a yearning for connection with the world around him. As he navigated through the underbrush, his thoughts were consumed by visions of glory and admiration. Actaeon was proud of his reputation, the stories told around campfires about his legendary hunts. But today felt different. The air was thick with an energy he could not quite place. With each step, he felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. As he ventured further into the woods, a path unfolded before him, leading to a glimmering pool nestled in a hidden glade. The soft sound of water lapping against the rocks beckoned him, drawing him in like a moth to a flame. Curiosity piqued, he pushed aside the branches and stepped into a space where the light danced upon the water's surface, illuminating the scene with an ethereal glow. And then he saw her. Diana, the goddess of the hunt, stood there, radiant and divine. She was a vision of beauty and strength, her long hair cascading like a waterfall down her back, shimmering in the sunlight. The water dripped from her skin, glistening like precious jewels. For a moment, time stood still. Actaeon was mesmerized, his heart pounding in his chest as he took in the sight of the goddess and her nymphs, who danced and played around her in joyful abandon. It was a scene of purity, a sacred moment that he had unwittingly intruded upon. Shock washed over him, followed by a torrent of emotions. Awe filled his heart, but alongside it came fear. Actaeon understood that he was not just a hunter now, he was an intruder in a divine realm, trespassing on sacred ground. He stood frozen, captivated by Diana's grace and beauty, the realization hitting him hard that he had stumbled upon something far greater than the hunt he so cherished. Diana's laughter rang out like music, pure and free, but as her eyes locked onto his, the joy faded, replaced by an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Her gaze pierced through him, as if she could see into the very depths of his soul. Actaeon felt exposed, his heart racing not just from the thrill of the chase, but from the sudden weight of his actions. How could he have been so careless? How could he have entered her sacred space without knowing the consequences? In that moment, he became acutely aware of the tension in the air. The nymphs paused, their playful splashes subsiding as they turned to look at the intruder. There was a mixture of curiosity and disbelief etched on their faces. Actaeon could feel the heat of their stares, the collective energy of their disapproval. The atmosphere shifted, turning electric, and the beauty of the scene became overshadowed by an impending sense of doom. Diana stepped forward, her expression a mix of fury and sorrow. Her presence was commanding, and the very earth seemed to tremble beneath her feet. Actaeon's heart sank as he felt the weight of her wrath. This was not just a goddess, she was a protector of the wild, and he had disrespected her sanctuary. "Who dares to intrude upon my sacred space?" she demanded, her voice echoing through the glade like thunder, resonating with both power and sadness. Each word cut through the air, sharp and clear. Actaeon swallowed hard, his mind racing to find words that could possibly justify his presence. But all he could muster was the truth, the simple, raw truth of a hunter caught in a moment of weakness. "I am Actaeon, a hunter," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling under the weight of her gaze. "I did not mean to intrude. I was drawn here by the beauty of this place." His heart ached as he watched Diana's expression change, a flicker of something softening in her eyes before it was swallowed by a tide of disappointment. She had opened her heart to the world, offering beauty and grace, only to have it violated by someone who sought to conquer rather than cherish. Actaeon felt small and insignificant as he stood before her, a mere mortal facing the wrath of a goddess. He wished desperately to take back the moment, to turn away from the sacred glade and never look back. But it was too late. The damage was done. He had seen her, and in seeing her, he had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating, as Diana's nymphs gathered around her, their expressions filled with concern and anger. They understood the gravity of the situation, the violation of trust that had occurred in this once harmonious space. Actaeon felt their disappointment wash over him like a cold wave, chilling him to the bone. With a heart heavy with regret, Actaeon realized that his life as a hunter would never be the same. This moment would haunt him, a ghost lurking in the shadows of his memories. He had not just witnessed the goddess of the hunt, he had shattered the sanctity of her world. The knowledge of what he had done would forever change the way he viewed the wilderness he had once cherished so deeply. As Diana regarded him, her expression hardened. The weight of her gaze felt like a judgment upon his very soul. Actaeon's heart raced with fear and sorrow, understanding the cost of his mistake. He stood at the edge of a precipice, knowing that one misstep could lead to dire consequences. And in that moment of realization, as he looked into the eyes of the goddess, he felt an overwhelming sense of loss. This encounter was not just about him, it was about the bond between humanity and the divine, a bond he had carelessly broken. Diana's world was one of purity and reverence, and he had tainted it with his intrusion. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears as he waited for her response, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. Would she show mercy, or would she unleash the fury of the wild upon him? The forest held its breath, suspended in time as Actaeon awaited his fate, caught between awe and despair, the weight of his discovery heavier than he could have ever imagined. The air in the glade felt thick, charged with a tension that hung between Actaeon and Diana, like an unseen storm brewing on the horizon. The moment had shifted, the beauty of the scene had turned into something darker, heavier. Diana, the goddess of the hunt, stood before him, and in her eyes, he could see a whirlwind of emotions. They swirled together, anger, disappointment, and a deep, aching sorrow. Actaeon had crossed a line that no one should dare to cross, and the realization sank into his bones like a chill. Diana was not just any goddess, she was the embodiment of the wild, a fierce protector of her realm. She had dedicated herself to the wilderness, to the purity of the hunt, and to the sacredness of her space. To be seen, to have her privacy shattered, ignited something within her that could not be contained. In that moment, her heart was not just bruised, it was enraged. As Actaeon stood before her, he could feel the pulse of her anger like a living thing. It vibrated through the ground, making the leaves tremble and the water ripple in the pool behind her. Her beauty, once radiant and serene, now transformed into a fierce visage that could turn the fiercest of hunters to stone. He felt small, powerless against the weight of her wrath. This was not a goddess who could be easily appeased, this was Diana, and she commanded respect and fear in equal measure. Shame coursed through Actaeon. He had sought beauty and truth, but instead, he found himself drowning in regret. The realization of his mistake weighed heavily on him, pulling him down like an anchor. How could he have been so foolish? How could he have let his curiosity lead him to violate such a sacred space? He had always revered nature and its creatures, yet in this moment, he stood before the goddess he admired, a mere intruder. The thoughts spiraled in his mind, each one heavier than the last. The realization cut him deeply, and the pain of shame felt like a sword piercing through him. Diana's voice broke through the heavy silence, cold and unyielding. "You dare to invade my sanctuary, to lay eyes upon me when I am vulnerable?" Her words were sharp, like arrows released from a bow, striking true and deep. "You have shown no respect for the purity I guard, and now you must face the consequences." Each word was a reminder of his failure, a reflection of her disappointment, and it echoed in the stillness of the glade, amplifying the weight of her fury. In that moment, Diana was not just a goddess of the hunt, she was a force of nature, embodying the wild spirit of the wilderness she protected. Her connection to the land, the animals, and the very essence of life surged through her, fueling her anger. The themes of purity and revenge intertwined in her heart, creating a tempest that could no longer be contained. To her, this was not merely a personal affront, it was an attack on the sacredness of nature itself. Actaeon felt the ground shift beneath him, as if the earth was ready to swallow him whole. The reality of what he had done crashed over him like a tidal wave. He had intruded upon something divine, and now he could feel the repercussions echoing in the very air around him. The forest seemed to pulse with her energy, the trees bending slightly as if in anticipation of her next move. He could sense that her decision was imminent, and with it, a choice that would seal his fate. Diana's expression hardened. Her shame was not only for herself, but for the sanctity of her realm. She had always been a protector, a guardian of the wild, and now she felt her very identity was under threat. She had fought hard to maintain the balance between humanity and nature, to preserve the purity of her domain. Now, standing before the very hunter who had crossed the line, she felt a fire ignite within her, a determination to ensure that her sanctuary remained untouched. The theme of revenge surged within her, mingled with a profound sense of loss. She could not simply let this transgression pass. Actaeon's intrusion had shattered the tranquility she had fought to uphold, and there could be no forgiveness for such a violation. He had seen her in a moment of vulnerability, and for that, he must pay a price. Her gaze turned steely, and her voice, though filled with sadness, bore a resolve that would not be swayed. "For this trespass, you will suffer the consequences of your actions," she declared, her tone ringing with authority. "You will become what you hunted." In that instant, her heart ached, for she understood the gravity of her words. This punishment was not merely revenge, it was a transformation of his very essence, a retribution that would echo through the ages. Actaeon's heart raced as he grasped the weight of her declaration. Fear gripped him, intertwining with the shame he had already felt. The ground beneath him felt alive, the forest itself resonating with the goddess's power. The trees loomed, ancient and wise, their roots intertwined with the very fabric of the earth, as if they too understood the gravity of what was unfolding. In that heart-stopping moment, Actaeon could only watch as the goddess he had so foolishly admired became the embodiment of his greatest fear. The shadows in the glade grew darker, swirling around him like a storm, enveloping him in a shroud of uncertainty. Diana's beauty remained, but now it held a ferocity that left no room for doubt. This was a woman scorned, a goddess protecting her realm at any cost. As he stood there, powerless, Actaeon realized that the themes of shame, purity, and revenge were more than mere concepts, they were living forces that shaped the world around him. He had thought of himself as a master of the hunt, but in this moment, he became prey. The raw emotion coursing through him was overwhelming, a mixture of regret and fear, coupled with a profound understanding of the consequences of his actions. Diana's wrath was not just a reaction, it was a reckoning. It was the culmination of all that she represented, a reminder that the wild must be respected, that the boundaries between humanity and the divine should never be crossed. Actaeon's heart sank further, and he understood, in the depths of his soul, that he had become a cautionary tale, a living reminder of the balance that must be upheld between mankind and the spirit of the wild. And as the forest echoed with the weight of her decision, Actaeon felt a shiver of understanding ripple through him. The cost of his mistake was about to unfold, and he could only brace himself for the inevitable transformation that awaited him, knowing that in Diana's wrath lay not just punishment, but a profound lesson on respect, purity, and the intricate dance between humanity and nature. A chilling breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it the weight of a transformation that was about to unfold. Actaeon stood frozen in place, every muscle in his body tensed, as the air around him thickened with magic. This was no ordinary moment. It was a point of no return, where the threads of fate began to weave a new reality. The goddess's words echoed in his mind, reverberating like thunder. "You will become what you hunted." In an instant, the power of Diana surged through the glade, a tempest that engulfed him completely. He felt a tingling sensation starting at the tips of his fingers and toes, spreading like wildfire through his body. Panic surged within him, but it was mixed with a strange sense of inevitability, as if the universe had conspired for this very moment. He had long been a hunter, proud and skillful, but now he could feel the very essence of his being shifting. What was once human was slowly slipping away, replaced by something wild and untamed. As the transformation intensified, he gazed at his hands, watching in horror as they began to morph before his eyes. His fingers elongated, nails sharpening into pointed hooves, the soft, warm skin fading away to a rich, earthy brown. The sensation was overwhelming, and exquisite pain and pleasure mingled together as he felt his body reshape. His limbs grew longer, more powerful, and a wave of instinct surged through him, awakening something primal that had long been dormant. His heart raced as he felt his face elongate, his jaw shifting and reshaping into a muzzle. He could taste the air with newfound senses, each inhalation filling his lungs with the rich, vibrant scents of the forest. The world around him was no longer just a backdrop, it was alive and pulsating with energy. He could feel the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of animals, and the heartbeat of the earth beneath him. What once was human reason faded into the background, replaced by a deep connection to the wild. And then it happened. The last vestiges of his humanity slipped away, and in their place stood a magnificent stag. His antlers reached high into the sky, branching out like the trees around him. He was powerful, regal, and breathtakingly beautiful. But beneath that beauty lay a haunting realization. He was no longer Actaeon, the skilled hunter. He had become the very creature he had pursued with such fervor. In this metamorphosis, Actaeon's identity was not simply stripped away, it was transformed into something more profound. The stag was a symbol of grace and strength, embodying the wild spirit he had long admired. Yet, as he took his first steps as a creature of the forest, the weight of his past actions crashed over him like a wave. The thrill of the hunt, once intoxicating, now felt hollow. He had reveled in the chase, but now he understood the fragility of life in the wilderness. He had crossed a line, and the consequence was not just his loss of form, but a deeper understanding of the balance of nature. As he moved through the underbrush, he felt the world anew. Every rustle of grass and whisper of the wind called to him, guiding him through the forest that had once seemed so familiar. Yet, there was a sadness woven through his newfound existence. He was now a part of the very realm he had intruded upon, a living reminder of the consequences of disrespect. He could hear the soft voices of the other creatures, the whispers of the trees, and the gentle rush of the streams. They spoke of a world that thrived on harmony, where every being had its place. But within the beauty of this transformation lay a sense of loss. The memories of his life as Actaeon flooded back in flashes, the laughter of friends, the warmth of the sun on his skin, the thrill of the hunt. Each recollection felt like a distant echo, fading further away as the stag's instincts took hold. He was no longer a man, he was part of the wilderness, forever altered, forever aware of the consequences of his previous life. The symbolism of his transformation ran deep, entwined with the very fabric of mythology. In ancient tales, metamorphosis often signified more than just a physical change. It represented a profound journey of understanding, redemption, and the quest for identity. Actaeon's transformation into a stag was not merely a punishment, but a gateway to enlightenment. He had been forced to confront his actions in a visceral way, to become one with the creatures he once hunted. As he roamed the forest, he came to appreciate the delicate balance of life. The forest was not just a place to conquer, it was a living entity, thriving on respect and connection. Each creature played a role, every sound woven into the symphony of nature. He watched as animals moved gracefully through their habitats, their actions filled with purpose and intention. They were not mindless beings, but participants in a grand design, a dance of survival and harmony. Through the eyes of the stag, Actaeon began to understand the sanctity of life in a way he never could as a hunter. The urge to chase and kill faded into something deeper, a longing to coexist, to appreciate the beauty of the wild without seeking dominance over it. He was now a part of something greater, a tapestry of life that thrived in the shadows of the trees and the glimmers of the streams. Yet, the knowledge of his past actions remained a heavy burden. He had violated the sacredness of Diana's space, and now he bore the weight of that transgression. As he wandered, a sense of longing filled his heart. He missed the connection he had once known with humanity, the bonds of friendship and love that had defined his life. The echoes of laughter and the warmth of companionship felt like a distant dream, slipping further away with each passing moment. But in his new form, Actaeon also discovered a sense of freedom he had never known. He could run through the underbrush, leap over fallen branches, and feel the wind rush through his fur. He was alive in a way that transcended the limitations of his previous existence. The wild welcomed him, wrapping him in its embrace as he learned to navigate the rhythms of nature. He had been given a second chance, though it came at a steep price. In the heart of the forest, Actaeon roamed, caught in the tension of his dual existence. He was a creature of the wild, yet a remnant of the man he once was lingered in the depths of his soul. The transformation was not just physical, it was a metamorphosis of spirit, a journey of understanding that would forever shape his essence. Through this painful yet beautiful change, Actaeon learned that transformation was not solely a punishment, it was an opportunity for redemption. He had been forced to confront his past and embrace a new path, one where respect for the wild became the cornerstone of his existence. In his heart, he carried the lessons of both a hunter and a stag, a living testament to the delicate balance of life and the power of metamorphosis. The forest came alive with a thunderous roar, the sound of horns echoing through the trees like a warning bell. Actaeon, now transformed into a magnificent stag, could feel the shift in the air, a charged energy that crackled with anticipation. The hunt was about to begin. Heart racing, he sprinted through the underbrush, his hooves pounding the earth, a primal instinct guiding him as the chase unfolded. Each leap he took felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He was no longer the one who hunted, he was the hunted. The world around him blurred as he moved, a symphony of colors and sounds merging into a single, overwhelming experience. The scent of the forest filled his nostrils, the rich, earthy aroma of damp leaves, the sweet scent of wildflowers, and the sharp tang of pine. It was intoxicating, yet now it bore a weight he could not shake. He was acutely aware that behind him, hunters were closing in, determined to claim what they believed was just prey. As he dashed through the trees, he felt a connection to the very ground beneath him, as if it pulsed in rhythm with his heart. Gone was the pride of being the hunter, replaced by an instinctual need to survive. The sheer beauty of the forest became both a refuge and a maze, each tree a potential ally or enemy. Every rustle in the leaves sent a jolt of fear through him, reminding him that the hunters were relentless, skilled, and unyielding. The sound of barking hounds filled the air, their sharp cries cutting through the tranquil forest like a knife. Actaeon could hear the snapping of branches and the thudding of hooves behind him. He glanced back, catching a fleeting glimpse of men on horseback, their faces set with determination, eyes gleaming with the thrill of the chase. The sight sent a wave of panic surging through him, a reminder that his existence now teetered on the edge of danger. A hunter's instinct was ingrained deeply within him, but now it felt like a cruel twist of fate. The rush he had once felt while stalking his prey was replaced by a suffocating sense of dread. Every instinct screamed at him to escape, to run faster, but he was also burdened by the knowledge that these men, now his pursuers, were once like him, fellow hunters bound by tradition and adrenaline. The thought twisted in his mind, making the chase feel like a cruel game, one where he had unknowingly become the prize. As he navigated the dense forest, Actaeon relied on his newfound agility, his muscles coiling and releasing with each bound. He darted through narrow gaps between trees, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The world shifted around him, becoming a blend of fear and clarity, as if he had crossed into a new realm where survival was paramount. Each leap brought him closer to the thrill of freedom and further away from the haunting memories of his past life. In this twisted dance, he could sense the dynamic shifting. The hunters, fueled by their desire to conquer, were now playing a dangerous game. They were relentless, their voices a chorus of excitement as they urged their horses forward. "There he goes," they shouted, the thrill of the chase igniting their spirits. But what they didn't realize was that the creature they pursued was more than just a target. He was a reflection of their own nature, a mirror of the hunt itself. Actaeon raced past a clear stream, the cool water sparkling in the sunlight, a beacon of life amidst the chaos. He wanted to stop, to drink, to breathe, but he couldn't afford the luxury. With every passing moment, he felt the weight of their pursuit bearing down on him. The hunters' laughter echoed through the trees, a reminder of their presence, their triumph just a breath away. As he sped through the undergrowth, a realization struck him. This was more than just a hunt, it was a test of spirit, a battle between predator and prey. Each heartbeat pounded in his ears, urging him to move faster, to evade the fate that awaited him. In the distance, he could hear the dogs barking, their eager barks mingling with the sound of hoofbeats, each sound sending a fresh surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. The forest, once a place of beauty and solitude, became a battleground. Actaeon understood the stakes now. It was not just his life on the line, but the essence of the hunt itself. The forest held its breath, as if it understood the gravity of the moment. Trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out as if to shield him from the hunters, while the ground beneath his hooves seemed to whisper encouragement, urging him onward. In the heart of this wild chase, the dynamics shifted once more. Actaeon's fear transformed into a fierce resolve. No longer merely a victim of circumstances, he tapped into the strength that surged within him, fueled by the primal instinct to survive. The thrill of the hunt shifted in his heart. He was not just escaping, he was reclaiming his spirit, embracing the very essence of the wilderness he had once taken for granted. As he pushed himself to the limit, every fiber of his being cried out to escape. The hunters were relentless, their shouts growing louder, the dogs closing in with each passing second. But with every leap, he felt more connected to the wild. He became one with the rustling leaves, the whispers of the wind, and the heartbeat of the forest itself. Each stride was not just an escape, it was a declaration of life, a celebration of the wild spirit that now coursed through him. The chase intensified, a whirlwind of energy and desperation, each moment a clash of instinct and purpose. Actaeon became a creature of the night, a shadow darting through the trees, evading grasping hands and snapping jaws. He was a part of the forest now, a silent guardian of its secrets. The essence of the hunt shifted. It was no longer merely a pursuit for glory, but a sacred dance between life and death. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, the chase took a turn. The ground beneath him felt different, the air heavy with tension. He sensed a shift in the hunter's approach. Their calls became frantic, their excitement tinged with something darker. They were closing in, but so was something else, a realization that hung in the air, a flicker of doubt that coursed through their ranks. As the hunters pressed forward, Actaeon could feel their determination wavering. They had once pursued him with the zeal of victory, but now he could sense their unease. The forest, with its untamed beauty and fierce spirit, had become an ally, enveloping him in its protective embrace. The trees seemed to close ranks around him, their branches intertwining, creating a barrier that pushed back against the hunter's resolve. In those heart-stopping moments, as he raced through the woods, Actaeon became more than just a creature of flight. He became a symbol of survival, a testament to the spirit of the wild. The lines between hunter and hunted blurred, revealing the deeper truths that lay beneath the surface. In the end, it was not about conquering or claiming victory. It was about the respect for life that bound them all together in this sacred cycle. With each heartbeat, the dynamics shifted again. The chase became a tapestry of emotions woven together: fear, excitement, desperation, and ultimately, a profound sense of belonging. Actaeon was no longer just a hunter turned prey. He was a part of something much greater, a living reminder of the balance that existed within the heart of the wilderness. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows that danced among the trees, he realized that this chase was not just about survival. It was about understanding the bond that connected every living thing in the forest. As the night enveloped the world, the chase continued, but now it felt like a ritual, an echo of the past intertwined with the present. Actaeon had transformed, but so had the very essence of the hunt itself. In this dance of life, he found strength, purpose, and a connection to the wild that would forever shape his destiny. The air was filled with the mournful cries of Actaeon's own hounds, hounds that had once been his loyal companions, following his every command and instinctively understanding his silent signals. In their strong, swift bodies, they held a spirit as fierce as the hunt itself. They had been trained to track, to chase, to capture, creatures of loyalty and courage, born to hunt but also bound by a trust deeper than words. That trust, however, would now become the bitterest twist in Actaeon's fate. When Actaeon had been a man, these dogs had been more than tools of the hunt. They were his trusted allies, bound to him by endless hours spent together under sun and storm alike. Each dog had its own name, a personality he knew and cherished. Melampus, the dark and loyal leader, with eyes as sharp as a hawk's; Theron, proud and fearless, his sleek coat glistening under the forest canopy; and Lelaps, the swiftest of them all, her movements like a shadow that could never be caught. These hounds were not just animals, they were companions who knew his scent, his voice, his heart. Now, transformed into a stag, Actaeon felt a new and horrifying sensation as he heard their familiar voices. They called to him in a language only they understood, their senses heightened and sharpened, picking up the scent of his fear. His body reacted to the recognition, muscles tensed, a surge of both sadness and terror filling him. He wanted to shout out, to call their names, but all that escaped his lips was the desperate bleat of an animal. The hounds he had trained, nurtured, and loved could no longer recognize the soul that had once been their master. In ancient mythology, hunting dogs were more than mere animals, they were creatures intertwined with fate, spirit, and loyalty. Their instincts, sharper and purer than those of any human, made them revered. They were seen as protectors, companions, and guides, revered for their loyalty and strength. To hunt alongside them was a bond unlike any other, a blend of man and beast moving with a single, unified purpose, a shared heartbeat in the forest's depths. And now, these hounds that Actaeon had once led, who had followed him through countless hunts and shared the spoils of victory, were closing in on him with the same relentlessness they had shown to his former prey. He could feel their hot breath, hear their growls growing louder, the familiar sound a cruel reminder of the trust they had once placed in him. They were doing what he had trained them to do, obeying the instincts he had honed within them, responding to the scent trail he could not erase. The irony of it burned deeper than any wound, a punishment wrapped in the loyalty they felt to their task. Actaeon ran, every muscle aching, every heartbeat pounding with the weight of betrayal that was not theirs to bear. The dogs knew nothing of curses, of transformations, of the anguish in their master's eyes. To them, he was simply the prey they had been sent to pursue, the scent that they were bound to follow until they brought it to the ground. The hounds had no notion of the tragedy unfolding, no awareness of the terror their presence now ignited in the heart of the creature they hunted. All they knew was the drive to complete their mission, the thrill of the chase, the call to serve and protect. With every step, Actaeon could feel his heart breaking. He had once been the master of these hounds, leading them through the forest with pride and purpose. They had been his friends, his protectors, sharing his victories and resting by his side in peace. Now, the loyalty they had once shown him was transformed into an unstoppable force, pushing them ever closer to their prey. They were bound by instincts older than any curse, and as Actaeon stumbled through the forest, he knew there was no escaping the fate they represented. In the world of gods and men, hunting hounds were legendary symbols of loyalty and unwavering focus. They embodied the spirit of the hunt, carrying within them the power of nature itself, unforgiving, relentless, and pure. Each howl that pierced the air seemed to echo with the stories of other hunts, other chases that had played out through the centuries. This was the essence of the bond between hunter and hound, a relationship so deep and primal that it transcended even life and death. Actaeon's heart ached with a bitter mixture of love and sorrow as he ran. He remembered every gentle touch, every whispered command that had passed between him and his hounds. He had trusted them, and they had trusted him in return. But now, stripped of his humanity, he could only flee from the very creatures he had loved most. The loyalty they once bore him had become a silent force driving them forward, a duty they could not question or abandon. To them, he was simply the stag, the target of their hunt, and they were bound to him only by the scent of his fear. Each moment brought them closer, the familiar sound of their paws striking the ground filling Actaeon with an anguish that words could never capture. He could sense the determination in each of their movements, the pride in their pursuit, and the joy they felt in fulfilling their role. They were acting as they always had, guided by the bond he had once cherished. And with every bound, every bark, they carried a reminder of the life he had lost, of the friendship that had been twisted by fate into a tragic pursuit. In a cruel twist, these hounds were not only Actaeon's punishment but also his final companions on this journey. The forest had once been their shared haven, a place where they had roamed together in peace. Now, it was the backdrop of a hunt that would end only in sorrow. The loyalty they had given him, the trust they had shown, became a silent reminder that the gods' whims were often harsher than mortal hearts could bear. There's an ache in knowing that a single, unintentional step could unravel a life in ways that no one could predict. Actaeon's story pulses with the tension between innocence and guilt, a question that hangs heavy over each moment he spends in Diana's forest. In those silent woods, one mistake changes everything, not just for Actaeon, but for the hounds that loved him, the goddess who protected her purity fiercely, and the world that watched, learning from his fate. It's a moment that feels both heartbreakingly real and agonizingly unjust. Was he truly guilty, or was he simply a soul trapped by a fate he never asked for? When Actaeon stumbled into that forbidden space, his heart wasn't filled with malice or pride. He was a man who loved the wild, who knew its every whisper, who breathed its mystery as if it were a part of his own spirit. On that fateful day, he ventured deeper than usual, his hunter's instincts silent, unaware of the sacred waters ahead. His eyes, so used to tracing paths and reading signs, weren't seeking secrets or forbidden visions. And yet, there she was, Diana, radiant, untouched, surrounded by her nymphs. In that instant, he was not a hunter, he was simply a man overwhelmed, caught by the light of a goddess as elusive as the moon. He wasn't looking for power or for possession, yet the punishment that followed would be as if he had committed the gravest of sins. As the goddess's wrath unfolded, the haunting question remains, was Actaeon truly guilty? His only transgression was his presence, an accidental glance that could have meant nothing more than a stumble into forbidden territory. But to Diana, it meant more than that. It was a violation, a reminder that even the strongest goddess could be seen, made vulnerable. She was purity embodied, and her anger was fierce, almost reflexive, to shield herself from a gaze that didn't belong. Yet, for Actaeon, that brief, blameless glimpse would seal his doom, a fate he couldn't have foreseen or escaped. This story stirs something painful in those who hear it. Actaeon's punishment, the terrible transformation, the brutal hunt, feels too harsh, a sentence too weighty for an act without intent. There's no chance for a plea, no moment for understanding, only Diana's raw, immediate anger. For her, his presence feels like an act of defiance, though it was as innocent as any misstep could be. And so, innocence and guilt blur in the midst of the forest. Actaeon is made to bear the weight of the goddess's vulnerability, even if his heart held no malice. In a world governed by gods and their ever-watchful eyes, the lines between guilt and innocence are not always drawn by intention. It's as if the act alone is enough, the violation of a sacred rule a crime that warrants retribution. Actaeon's innocence, his unknowing misstep, makes his punishment all the more unbearable, for we see in him a soul whose only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We ache with him because his suffering feels unjust, an echo of all those moments where good intentions go unseen, where the truth remains unheard. And yet, some may say that innocence doesn't absolve Actaeon entirely. Diana's world was sacred, and in her eyes, a mortal gaze was a stain on her purity, a breach of the boundary between mortal and divine. It didn't matter if he had stumbled by chance, the space she created was meant to be inviolable, untouched by any but her and her followers. From her perspective, his presence was a reminder that even goddesses could be vulnerable, could be seen and thus, perhaps, undone. In that one terrible moment, she was both the goddess of the hunt and the prey, seen, exposed, and furious. This clash between innocence and guilt gives the myth its haunting power. Actaeon, an unknowing intruder, represents the frailty of human life, the way one's destiny can turn on a single, innocent mistake. To live as a mortal in the shadow of gods is to accept the unpredictable, to understand that one's intentions, however pure, mean little when the will of the gods is at play. There is a harshness here, an unwavering reminder of the gods' dominion over life, a reminder that innocence might not protect from divine wrath. In his story, the sorrow lies in the purity of his heart and the cruelty of his fate. Actaeon's very essence, his loyalty to the wild, his deep love for the world Diana also cherished, became the source of his undoing. And perhaps that is why his tale lingers in the soul like a cold, silent weight. It reminds us that sometimes, innocence alone cannot save us, that even the purest heart can become the hunted. Was Actaeon innocent? Yes, in his heart. Was he guilty? Perhaps, in the eyes of a goddess who could not tolerate a gaze upon her secret world. But in the forest, where his fate was sealed, these questions have no answers, only the ache of a punishment meted out with a swiftness that feels both righteous and unbearable. There's a certain pain in knowing that a story can live for centuries, evolving and transforming with each telling, carrying fragments of truth and mystery, shifting like shadows. The tale of Actaeon is one of those stories, one that never rests, that feels different each time it's told. The ancient texts that hold his story echo across time, sometimes leaving us with sorrow, sometimes filling us with awe. They never quite settle on one truth, and perhaps that's the beauty of it. Actaeon's fate is a mirror, showing us different faces of human curiosity, of divine wrath, of the thin line between innocence and transgression. In some Greek versions of Actaeon's story, he appears almost as an innocent victim, someone whose only mistake was to enter the wrong place, to witness what no mortal should have seen. Here, the gods, particularly Artemis, known as Diana to the Romans, appear severe, unforgiving, quick to punish without mercy. In these tellings, there's an underlying question that lingers long after the tale is told. Did he truly deserve his fate? Actaeon was a skilled hunter, a lover of the wilderness, a man in tune with the rhythm of nature, just as Artemis herself was. They shared a connection to the wild, an appreciation for its beauty and its mystery. And yet, in the moment of his accidental gaze, the bond between hunter and goddess shattered, leaving only her unbridled rage and his unbidden transformation. In other ancient interpretations, the story takes on a different hue. Actaeon's fate is no longer the consequence of pure chance, but rather of a hidden arrogance, an overstepping of boundaries. In these versions, Actaeon is not an innocent. He is portrayed as a man whose curiosity became his flaw, a hunter who dared to intrude into a sacred space with reckless disregard. His eyes, though unseeing of their transgression, crossed a line set by the gods. Here, Actaeon becomes a symbol of mortal pride, a reminder that even the greatest hunter is only human and that the gods demand respect and reverence above all else. This version doesn't offer comfort. Instead, it serves as a stark warning, a reminder that some things are forbidden for a reason, and that to ignore the divine is to invite ruin. The Roman poets, however, bring yet another layer of complexity to Actaeon's story. In these versions, he is often given a tragic dignity, as if his fate were not only about punishment, but also about the price of mortal existence itself. Ovid's Metamorphoses brings a haunting vividness to Actaeon's transformation, the weight of each moment thick with sorrow. Actaeon is portrayed as neither wholly innocent nor entirely guilty, he is simply human. Ovid captures his horror, his despair, the agony of a man who can no longer recognize his own reflection, who is suddenly more animal than human. There's a tragedy in this change, a sadness that fills the reader with a sense of loss, for Actaeon was not simply punished, he was changed in a way that left him utterly vulnerable, stripped of everything he was. Here, Diana's wrath feels almost inevitable, like a storm that no one can stop, and Actaeon's fate is sealed not just by a single gaze, but by the harsh reality of the god's world. Different sources add yet more shades to the tale. In some, Actaeon is portrayed as a warning against the dangers of lust and unchecked desire, his gaze a symbol of transgression that must be punished to restore balance. In others, his tale reflects the boundaries that the divine sets to protect their power, boundaries that even an accidental gaze cannot cross without dire consequences. Each telling adds its own piece to the story, its own understanding of what it means to be mortal, to live under the eyes of gods who do not always forgive. The mythologists and writers who shared Actaeon's story over the centuries seem to understand that his tale holds something larger than the specifics of a single man's fate. Actaeon becomes, in many ways, every person who has ever dared to reach beyond, every soul who has stumbled into forbidden spaces, every heart that has been caught by the beauty of something beyond their grasp. His punishment is fierce, his suffering almost unbearable, and yet his story holds a universal truth, that to be human is to yearn, even when we know the risks. In the end, each version of Actaeon's tale seems to reflect a different aspect of the human spirit, of the unyielding nature of the gods, and of the timeless tension between the seen and the unseen, the mortal and the divine. Some tellers may show him as a symbol of human curiosity, of the bravery, and the folly, of crossing boundaries set by forces greater than ourselves. Others see him as a cautionary figure, one whose gaze should have been turned inward rather than outward. And in each telling, Actaeon's story remains alive, a story that shifts like the forest itself, refusing to be contained by a single meaning. Each retelling leaves us with more questions than answers. It's easy to see Diana only as the fierce goddess with a bow, chasing across the heavens and roaming the wild forests. But beneath that fierce exterior lies a heart full of contradictions, strength, and complexity that goes beyond simple tales of vengeance or hunting. Diana is more than a protector of the wild, she's a guardian of those who wander, a fierce avenger of those who dare to break sacred boundaries, and a symbol of untamed, unapologetic female power that refuses to be controlled. She's the embodiment of nature's beauty and its danger, all at once gentle and wild, all at once a goddess who blesses and curses. As protector, Diana's presence feels like the comforting stillness of the forest at dawn, with each tree, each leaf, standing under her watchful gaze. She guards not just the trees, but the creatures that nestle within, the streams that run free, and those who live under her laws. Her protection extends to women, the vulnerable, the unseen. She holds close those who need her strength, embodying a fierce love for those who respect her wilderness. For women, she represents a force that stands by them in silence and strength, a reminder that their voices hold power, their independence holds meaning. And yet, this protection isn't soft or fragile. Diana doesn't bend, and she doesn't ask for permission. Her protection is fierce and unyielding, like the forest that can shield you from harm but turn dangerous if its sanctity is violated. And yet, the same Diana who fiercely protects can also be quick to anger. As an avenger, she is terrifying and unbreakable. Her wrath is not born of petty vengeance, but a response to betrayal, to those who defy her sacred boundaries. When Actaeon stumbled upon her, unknowingly witnessing her in a vulnerable moment, he crossed a line that even his innocence couldn't undo. For Diana, this was not about a single act of trespass, but about the violation of something deeply sacred. Her revenge is swift, merciless, a reminder that nature, like the goddess herself, is not something to be disrespected or underestimated. Her anger has a purity to it, like fire in its raw form, a warning to those who think they can tread carelessly through the sacred spaces of her world. Then there's Diana as the symbol of feminine strength, a goddess who stands apart from the expectations placed upon her. She does not need the affection of men, the validation of a partner. She is whole unto herself. This autonomy makes her a powerful icon, a figure who moves freely without ties or expectations. She's a goddess who embodies a kind of power that exists beyond physical strength, an indomitable spirit, a resilience that doesn't falter. Her strength is rooted in her independence, and her choice to remain unclaimed, untamed, an individual who embraces the fullness of herself. She offers inspiration to those who seek that same freedom, showing that strength is not just in physical power, but in being true to oneself, and standing firm in one's values and refusing to compromise. Diana's complexity goes beyond labels of protector, avenger, or symbol. She is each of these, and yet she is more. She embodies the untamed aspects of the human spirit, the parts of ourselves that don't want to conform, that long to run free, to protect what we love fiercely, and to remain strong in the face of hardship. There's a beauty in her contradictions, a goddess of both life and death, of nurture and punishment, of fierce independence and deep loyalty. In every story, in every whispered prayer, Diana stands as a figure who cannot be tamed or confined, an eternal reminder of nature's enduring power, both beautiful and relentless. Her name echoes like a whisper through the ancient forests, a figure whose presence is felt in the stillness of moonlit nights and in the fierce roar of wilderness. Diana, the goddess who defies simple definitions, stands as a guardian, a force of justice, and a beacon of raw, powerful strength. She doesn't merely exist in Roman mythology, she pulses with life, with emotions as fierce and changeable as the forests and mountains she protects. Diana is protector, avenger, and an unbreakable symbol of feminine strength. As a protector, Diana embodies the gentle ferocity of nature itself. She shields the innocent, the vulnerable, and those who honor her wilderness with reverence. She is the calm presence in the untouched grove, watching over animals that nestle under the canopy of her trees, safeguarding creatures both small and large. It's in the quiet glades and dense thickets, where every leaf seems to know her touch, that her essence dwells. To those who enter her sacred lands with respect, she is the spirit of the forest itself, a silent ally. And to women, Diana offers more, a protective embrace that transcends the physical, a promise that their worth is sacred and inviolable. She is the steadfast friend, the voice that whispers courage, the unyielding presence that reminds women of their own strength. But this tender protection has its boundaries, and crossing them awakens Diana's wrath. Her anger is swift, unmerciful, an intensity that turns her kindness into unyielding justice. When Actaeon stumbled upon her while she bathed, a place meant for peace and solitude, he trespassed not only into a space, but into her very sanctity. In that moment, Diana's role as an avenger became crystal clear, and her response, transforming him into a stag to be hunted by his own hounds, was her unspoken warning. Her vengeance isn't mindless or petty, it's rooted in the sanctity of her role, a reminder that respect for sacred spaces and boundaries is absolute. Diana's fury is a part of her, inseparable, like the storm within a quiet lake. And in her vengeance, she shows a side of herself that, while terrifying, is also deeply tied to her role as guardian of all she holds dear. Her justice is as fierce as her compassion. Then, beyond protector and avenger, Diana becomes something even more formidable, a symbol of independence, resilience, and female strength. She has no need for anyone's validation or approval. Hers is a strength that doesn't bow to anyone. In a world where goddesses were often linked to marriage, fertility, or beauty, Diana chose another path. She exists apart, driven by her own will and purpose, untouched by desires that would bind her to another. This fierce autonomy makes her more than a deity, it makes her a symbol, especially to women who have faced constraints and expectations that seem immovable. Diana stands for the right to choose, to stand firm in oneself, to embrace freedom without compromise. Diana's strength is boundless. She radiates it in every step through her forests, and every moment she watches the moon rise over the mountains she calls home. She isn't gentle or soft in the ways one might expect from a goddess, but that only makes her presence more powerful. Her strength is raw, fierce, and beautiful, a reminder of the strength within each person who hears her story. Diana isn't a goddess who conforms to anyone's ideals or fits within the boundaries of polite expectations. She is who she is, untamed and unapologetic, embracing each facet of her spirit without shame or restraint. In Diana's complex character, the lines between kindness and ferocity blur. She is each of these things entirely, yet none of them completely, a goddess who is as vast and changing as the landscape she roams. Her power, her independence, and her passion form a multifaceted being who doesn't ask for understanding but commands respect. Diana is timeless, a force of nature who, even now, speaks to those who value strength, honor boundaries, and believe in the unbreakable power of those who walk their own path. She isn't just a goddess of the hunt or the moon, she is an eternal reminder of courage, an embodiment of the indomitable, and a protector of those who choose to honor the wild within and around them. In the shadows of time, Diana and Actaeon's story pulses with life, a tale both haunting and captivating, captured in countless works of art that sought to hold its magic. Artists through the ages felt an almost unspoken pull to bring Diana's tale to life, a story where beauty meets tragedy, strength faces violation, and fate enacts a heavy toll. With brush and chisel, they found themselves entranced by Diana's fierce purity and Actaeon's ill-fated curiosity. In their creations, they didn't merely tell a story, they preserved the raw energy of the myth, letting it linger and breathe, century after century. The Renaissance, a time when art was awakening to new life, witnessed some of the most powerful depictions of Diana and Actaeon. Painters and sculptors found themselves drawn to the story's stark contrasts and poignant themes. Here was a goddess, uncompromising and fierce, guarding her sanctity in a world where even a fleeting glance could spark divine wrath. In Titian's Diana and Actaeon, painted in 1556, Actaeon is captured at the precise moment he stumbles upon Diana's private world. The painting reveals him frozen in shock, confronted with the goddess and her entourage, their expressions reflecting a mixture of anger and alarm. Titian painted Diana with an aura of majesty and fierce beauty, her defiance illuminating the canvas like an unyielding flame. Her piercing gaze, filled with both vulnerability and strength, seems to speak to viewers, reminding them of her power, warning of the price of trespassing her boundaries. Beyond the Renaissance, the story of Diana and Actaeon seeped into literature, where poets and writers embraced the tale's aching beauty and delicate tragedy. Shakespeare, who found a muse in classical mythology, evoked Diana's spirit in his words, her image appearing as a symbol of chastity and untamed spirit in plays like A Midsummer Night's Dream. Through literature, Diana became more than a goddess, she became a representation of ideals both fragile and fierce, embodying purity that wouldn't bend to earthly desires. Poets used her story to echo the strength of women's autonomy, a theme that resonated across centuries, finding new interpretations in every age. But Diana's myth didn't only inspire those who marveled at her power, it struck a more profound chord, stirring conversations about innocence and consequence, strength and vulnerability. Baroque artists, with their dramatic contrasts of light and dark, captured these nuances exquisitely. In many of these works, Actaeon is painted with a kind of tragic dignity, his fate sealed in the shadows cast by Diana's unwavering presence. Diana's anger, rendered through each artist's unique hand, is a complex force, both frightening and deeply moving, reflecting her sense of betrayal and the power she holds to transform. With her hand raised in anger or her gaze turned away, Diana embodies the pain of broken trust, an image of fierce beauty that refuses to be diminished. In each depiction, whether on canvas or in prose, Diana and Actaeon's myth stands as a bridge between worlds, the human and the divine, the innocent and the transgressor. Through the hands of artists and the words of poets, Diana's spirit endures, undimmed and forever wild, haunting viewers and readers alike, reminding them that some forces in the world remain untamed, untouched by time or tide. And even now, her presence is felt as strongly as ever, a timeless figure of power and purity whose story speaks to the soul, warning and inspiring in equal measure. In the silent majesty of ancient forests, the stag has roamed as a figure of beauty and vulnerability, bearing the spirit of both strength and sorrow. Across cultures and ages, it is seen with reverence, a creature that seems to carry the weight of its symbolism in every stride. To watch a stag in the wild, gliding through the woods or pausing by a shimmering stream, feels like stepping into a dream of ages past, a vision of life that is pure, untamed, and transient. But more than just an animal, the stag has long been a symbol of the hunted, of those caught between freedom and fate, forever pursued by forces beyond their control. In many cultures, the stag embodies grace and mystery, holding a sacred place among animals. In Celtic mythology, it represents the spirit of the forest, a guardian of the wilderness who bridges the human and natural worlds. The stag is revered as a creature of the otherworld, a guide for those who wander through the shadows of the unknown. For the Celts, to see a stag was to glimpse the divine, to understand that nature holds secrets deeper than any human heart. As a creature both hunted and holy, the stag speaks to the tension between life's beauty and the inevitable touch of mortality. In Actaeon's story, the stag is the form of his transformation, a punishment that turns the hunter into the hunted, forever altering his fate. In becoming a stag, Actaeon is stripped of his human identity, his power, and his place in the world, reduced to prey in the same wilderness he once roamed freely. This transformation is both tragic and symbolic. Actaeon, in his new form, feels the terror and vulnerability of the creatures he once pursued, and his story becomes a reminder of the delicate line between dominion and empathy. Through him, the stag becomes not only a creature of beauty but a symbol of consequence, embodying the fragility that lies at the heart of nature. The Greeks, too, held the stag in symbolic regard, often associating it with Artemis, Diana's Greek counterpart, the goddess of the hunt and protector of animals. For her, the stag was both companion and sacred creature, representing the delicate balance she upheld between predator and prey. To hunt a stag under her protection was a grave offense, a breach of the natural order she guarded fiercely. In Greek mythology, the stag reflects the sacredness of all life and the cost of transgressing against it, a warning as much as a symbol. In cultures beyond Greece and Rome, the stag's significance takes on different hues, yet remains deeply tied to themes of sacrifice and renewal. In Norse mythology, for example, stags like Icurna stand at the branches of Yggdrasil, the great world tree, drinking from its life-giving waters and symbolizing the endless cycle of life and death. Here, the stag becomes a part of creation itself, a creature whose existence speaks to the interconnectedness of all beings. To see a stag is to be reminded of the eternal flow of life, the natural rhythm that binds all creatures in a shared fate. For indigenous cultures in North America, the stag or deer also holds sacred meaning, often seen as a spirit guide, a bringer of peace, and a symbol of renewal. To these cultures, the stag is more than a hunted animal, it is an emblem of survival, its strength tempered by gentleness, teaching humans the values of respect and balance with the earth. The stag's ability to navigate the forest with quiet wisdom, to live both freely and cautiously, is seen as a model of harmonious existence. In ceremonies and stories, the stag reminds people to tread softly on the earth, to respect the lives they take, and to honor the delicate dance between hunter and hunted. And yet, perhaps the most poignant symbol the stag holds is that of innocence caught in a world of predators, a beauty marked by its vulnerability. As Actaeon transformed into a stag, he embodied this innocence, a creature unaware of the danger closing in, moving through the woods on borrowed time. In his transformation, Actaeon's final moments become a symbol of inevitable fate, where his own hounds turn on him, fulfilling the tragic irony of his punishment. The stag, hunted and hounded, speaks to the ultimate fragility that underlies every life. It is a reminder that beauty, no matter how wild and strong, is bound to the cycle of life and death, and that innocence, once shattered, cannot be reclaimed. In Actaeon's tale, the stag becomes a haunting symbol of the hunted, a figure whose power lies not in its ability to escape but in the dignity of its existence, in the way it moves through the forest as though it knows that beauty cannot last forever. In a world filled with towering cities and human-made wonders, there's a haunting pull toward the wild, a longing for the untamed, unspoiled beauty of nature. It's a pull that draws people back to dense forests, roaring rivers, and windswept mountains, places where civilization's grasp loosens and a raw, ancient power awakens. Actaeon, with his desire to conquer nature as a skilled hunter, stands on the thin line between humanity's desire for dominance and its yearning for connection to the wild. His story isn't just one of fate, it's the story of how humanity confronts nature and the forces it cannot, and perhaps should not, control. There, in the heart of the forest, Actaeon moved with confidence, as though every rustling leaf and distant cry belonged to him. With each step, he journeyed deeper into a realm that lay beyond the reach of cities and palaces, a place of unbroken silence and timeless mystery. Actaeon was at home in the wilderness, yet there was always something untouchable in it, something greater than any human could fully understand or control. And for all his skill, he was just a visitor in nature's eternal kingdom. Nature, wild and untamed, is a force that doesn't bend to human hands. It moves with an ancient rhythm, one that cities and empires often try to erase but can never truly overcome. In the forest, Actaeon felt powerful, but his presence was a reminder of civilization's fleeting grasp on a world that endures beyond any human creation. The trees, standing tall and watchful, seemed to hold secrets from a time before humanity's rise. The streams, winding through the earth, flowed with a freedom that not even the mightiest cities could claim. Actaeon's presence in this wild, untouched place was a bold claim by man upon nature, but also a fragile one, a reminder that for all its advancements, humanity remains a part of the natural world, not its master. As he pushed forward, Actaeon felt an exhilarating rush of power, a sense of control over this wild landscape. He had no fear, only a hunter's thrill, but his pride was met with silence from the ancient forest. In his eagerness, he forgot that nature is both beautiful and brutal, both enchanting and unforgiving. It's a delicate balance, one that civilization often disrupts in its attempt to tame the world, but nature does not forget, it watches, it waits. And in Actaeon's case, it was ready to remind him of his place. The forest he walked through was more than just a collection of trees and streams. It was alive, a force that lived and breathed, and in Diana's eyes, it was sacred. For her, nature was not something to be conquered, but something to be protected, revered. She embodied the spirit of the wilderness, a force that could be gentle and nurturing, but fierce and unyielding. As Actaeon wandered into Diana's domain, he unknowingly trespassed into a realm where human desires held no power. He crossed an invisible line, one that separated human civilization from the sanctity of the wild, a line that even the most skilled hunter should not dare to cross. In that fateful moment when Actaeon stumbled upon Diana, his intrusion shattered the fragile respect that should exist between humanity and nature. He became not a conqueror but a trespasser, a symbol of civilization's relentless push into places it doesn't belong. And in return, nature showed its teeth, reminding Actaeon and all who hear his story of the consequences that come when humanity oversteps its bounds. Actaeon's transformation into a stag is a painful, humbling reminder that nature cannot be fully conquered. It's a force that can transform, overwhelm, and reclaim. In becoming one with the very creatures he once pursued, Actaeon experienced a bitter twist of fate. No longer the masterful hunter, he became the hunted, an embodiment of nature's power to turn human dominance on its head, revealing the vulnerability that civilization often hides. This myth speaks to the delicate balance between civilization and nature, a balance that humanity has struggled with for centuries. Actaeon's story is timeless because it resonates with the constant push and pull between human advancement and nature's resilience. Cities rise, empires fall, but nature endures, ever watchful, waiting. Actaeon's fate reminds us that no matter how far civilization goes, no matter how high we build, there are forces that will always remain wild and unclaimed, and those forces demand our respect. In the quiet that followed Actaeon's transformation, a dark realization settled over him. As he felt his new form, the sharpness of antlers, the weight of hooves where his feet once were, his heart raced, not with the thrill of the hunt, but with a terror so raw it stole his breath. Actaeon, once the mighty hunter, now found himself trapped in the body of a stag, no longer in control but at the mercy of forces beyond his understanding. The forest, once familiar, now loomed as a maze of looming shadows and hidden dangers. He was no longer a visitor, he was prey. Actaeon's hunting companions called for him, their voices echoing through the forest as they searched. Each call, each shout for his name, pierced him in ways no arrow ever could. He wanted to answer them, to tell them he was there, hidden within the body of the very creature they had come to hunt. But he was silent, his human voice gone, replaced by the silent, watchful terror of a hunted animal. His companions grew impatient, their cheerful banter turning to frustration, unaware that the stag they would soon pursue was none other than the friend they sought. And then, they saw him, a majestic stag, standing at the edge of a clearing, its gaze wide and wild. They marveled at the size of the creature, how it seemed to watch them with almost human eyes. The thrill of the hunt stirred within them, and their hands reached for their weapons. They did not know it was Actaeon, yet in his eyes was a pleading, a silent cry they could not hear. With each step they took toward him, he took one back, retreating further into the shadows of the trees, driven by an instinct to flee but torn by a heart that yearned for mercy, for recognition. Actaeon's companions pursued him through the thick forest, their laughter and shouts growing with excitement. The sound of their approach pounded in his chest, the footsteps of his own friends now like the drumbeat of fate chasing him down. The forest that once offered him safety now seemed to close in around him, its shadows shifting, its paths twisting into an endless race for survival. He was no longer a man among friends, he was a hunted creature, and there was no escape. As they drew nearer, he could see their faces, his closest companions, friends he had shared countless hunts with, friends who trusted him. They raised their spears and loosed their hounds, and he knew that no amount of loyalty or friendship could save him now. The hounds, dogs he had trained himself, came tearing through the forest with fierce determination. They did not recognize their master. To them, he was just a quarry, something to bring down in a blaze of glory. When they finally closed in, the hounds lunged. Actaeon fought to keep running, his body thrashing, muscles straining, but there was no escape. In that final moment, he locked eyes with his companions, and perhaps, just perhaps, there was a flicker of recognition in their gaze. A horrible realization that made them hesitate, just for an instant, before the frenzy of the hunt consumed them once more. The hounds leaped upon him, tearing and clawing, a whirlwind of fangs and snarls. He could feel his life slipping away, each ragged breath a painful farewell to the world he once knew. He wanted to scream, to beg, to reach out to his friends, but he was silent, his cries lost within the body of the stag. As he lay there, his vision fading, he saw his companions standing above him, their faces a strange mixture of triumph and sorrow, a terrible regret dawning too late. When the chase ended, the forest fell silent once more. The stories of mythology have always held a mirror to humanity, reflecting strength, vulnerability, and resilience. Among these tales, the role of women emerges with a power that resonates through the ages, shaping the perception of female figures who are not merely symbols, but forces that command awe, respect, and sometimes fear. In this timeless narrative, Diana stands tall, a goddess whose power, autonomy, and unwavering resolve radiate through every myth told about her. She is not bound by expectations, she defines her own, a testament to the fierce independence that marks her very essence. Diana is not a goddess who pleads or persuades, she asserts herself without apology. In her character, there is an inherent duality, a protector of the natural world, a guardian of purity, yet also a figure who demands reverence, her strength like the ancient forest she rules. Her independence speaks to an ideal of womanhood unchained, not bending to any authority but her own. She embodies autonomy so fully that it challenges anyone who dares infringe upon her space. It is this unbreakable will that makes her unforgettable, and through her story, she becomes a symbol of all the women who have fought to own their voices, their lives, and their dreams. Female figures in mythology often wield a power that defies limitations, embodying wisdom, magic, and strength in ways that shape destinies and challenge fate itself. In these stories, women are more than mere side characters, they are the very fabric that weaves the tale together, possessing a unique resilience and commanding a respect that surpasses fear. They possess an inner strength that can alter the course of events, shifting the fates of gods and mortals alike. And yet, this strength is not always gentle or nurturing, it is often as fierce as the storm and as unyielding as the mountain. Diana's response to intrusion into her sanctuary reveals the raw, unfiltered side of her power, a force that protects without compromise, that punishes without hesitation. Her wrath against Actaeon, harsh and swift, underlines a resolve that does not tolerate disrespect. To enter her sacred space uninvited is to defy the boundaries she has set, and for that, there is no forgiveness. In this myth, Diana represents the fierce protector, a force of nature that will not be tamed. Her autonomy is non-negotiable, and any threat to it is met with swift, unflinching justice. In every myth where women hold power, they bring a depth that transforms the narrative. They are guardians, sorceresses, warriors, and mothers, their strength intertwined with vulnerability, their kindness balanced by a fierce sense of justice. This complexity makes them enduring symbols of resilience and autonomy, and Diana stands as a pinnacle of these qualities. Her freedom to move unrestrained through the wilderness, her defiance against being controlled or subdued, these qualities speak to a spirit that cannot be confined. She is bound only to her own principles, her own code, and her protection of the sanctity of her space is a reminder of the fierce sovereignty that women throughout history have fought to preserve. Diana's strength is not rooted in any external force, it comes from within, a power that is hers alone. She is a reminder that feminine strength does not seek validation, it is powerful simply by existing. This autonomy, this fearlessness, is an inspiration, a timeless reminder of the boundless possibilities when women are free to define themselves, to shape their lives according to their own truths. She becomes not just a symbol, but a call to reclaim one's own voice, one's own strength, unapologetically. The myth of Diana, with its echoes of fierce independence and protective power, celebrates the spirit of countless women who have claimed their own paths. Her image endures, a beacon of feminine strength that reminds us all, true power is not always loud, nor does it require approval. It exists simply because it is, and in its presence, there is an undeniable, breathtaking beauty. An Actaeon story, the tale of a young hunter and the goddess Diana, carries a truth so powerful that it echoes through the centuries. It isn't just about fate or punishment, but a profound reminder of respect, humility, and the delicate line between courage and arrogance. Actaeon's encounter with Diana, accidental though it may have been, speaks to the reverence owed to forces far beyond one's control. When that respect falters, the consequences can be swift, irreversible, and tragic. Actaeon was a skilled hunter, someone who pursued nature with a thrill for the chase and pride in his skill. Yet, in the quiet space of Diana's sacred grove, he was no longer the hunter but a mere intruder, a mortal stepping into the presence of a divinity whose rules and boundaries demanded absolute respect. He had crossed into a world where his skill, his pride, his identity as a hunter had no bearing. The moment he stumbled upon the goddess bathing, his fate was sealed. It was not simply the act of seeing Diana that condemned him, it was the violation of a sacred boundary, an unspoken law older than any mortal life. In that moment, he was not judged merely as a man but as a symbol of humanity's careless disregard for reverence and humility. The story of Actaeon cautions us about the weight of hubris, the type of pride that blinds one to their own vulnerability, that makes them forget their place in the vastness of existence. Hubris isn't just arrogance, it is a dangerous delusion that leads people to believe they are invincible, untouchable, beyond reproach. Actaeon's skill as a hunter, his prowess in the forest, made him confident, perhaps too confident. That confidence led him into the goddess's sanctuary, a place so sacred it required humility and reverence beyond what he could understand or appreciate in that instant. In his pride, he forgot the importance of respect, and that forgetfulness cost him everything. There's a poignant lesson in this tale about the consequences of crossing lines that should never be crossed. Some boundaries are not merely physical, they are symbolic of respect for forces larger than ourselves. Diana's wrath was not simply a response to being seen, it was a response to a trespass that threatened to defile something pure, something unbreakable. Her fury was a reminder that sacredness cannot be bargained with or overlooked. The consequences were brutal and immediate. As Actaeon was transformed, his very essence changed as a stark warning. It is as though the forest itself cried out against him, turning him into the hunted in a bitter twist of fate. For Actaeon's companions who saw him transformed into a stag and did not recognize him, the lesson was etched in their memories. Their beloved friend, their leader, became a fleeting shadow, a prey animal chased down by his own hounds. In that heart-wrenching moment, they witnessed not only his suffering but also the overwhelming power of forces beyond their understanding. They could do nothing but watch as his pride turned against him, a painful lesson in how the forces of the divine demand respect. Even those who did not transgress themselves were left haunted, burdened by the memory of what they had seen, a reminder of the price that disrespect for the sacred can exact. At its heart, Actaeon's story teaches a timeless truth about humility. It speaks to the importance of recognizing and respecting forces that exist beyond human grasp. The myth is a call to approach the unknown with reverence, to understand that some boundaries are meant to be honored, not challenged. It shows that a moment of hubris, a single act of careless pride, can shatter everything one holds dear. And in Diana's stern reaction, there is a powerful lesson about the divine's intolerance for those who disregard respect. Her anger, fierce and unyielding, is a reminder that the sacred demands humility. The goddess, fierce in her sense of justice, does not waver, teaching that the power she wields is absolute and demands deference. Her wrath speaks to the idea that the divine, like nature itself, has an order that cannot be taken for granted or ignored. In the end, the tale of Actaeon becomes more than a myth, it is a reminder etched across time. It cautions against arrogance, urging all who hear it to remember their place, to recognize the boundaries that exist in the world and within themselves. It calls for a humility that acknowledges the existence of forces larger than life, an understanding that some things, some places, and some moments are sacred beyond measure. Actaeon's story lingers as a testament to the beauty and strength of reverence, a lesson whispered across centuries, reminding us to tread lightly, with hearts open to respect for the mysteries that surround us. There is a quiet but unmistakable power in the story of Diana and Actaeon, a tale that reaches into the heart of literature and whispers truths too profound to ignore. Across the centuries, this myth has cast a haunting shadow, its beauty and tragedy lingering in the words of poets, dramatists, and storytellers. In every era, writers have been drawn to Diana, not only for her divine strength, but for the way her story reminds us of boundaries, of the sacred spaces in life and nature, and of the irretrievable consequences of crossing them. One of the most stirring aspects of Diana's influence on literature lies in her transformation from a goddess into a symbol of purity, strength, and wrath, a figure who embodies the balance between nurturing protection and fierce retribution. The poets of ancient Rome, particularly Ovid, were among the first to immortalize her in verse. In his Metamorphoses, Ovid tells the tragic tale of Actaeon with a poignancy that is both intimate and foreboding, capturing the awful moment when Actaeon, transformed into a stag, glimpses his own hounds approaching. Through Ovid's words, the story becomes not merely a myth, but a meditation on desire, punishment, and the natural world's hidden powers. It is Diana's presence that holds the tale together, the embodiment of the unforgiving line between reverence and transgression. Centuries later, as the Renaissance breathed new life into classical themes, Diana returned to the world of art and letters with newfound vitality. Poets and playwrights embraced her complex nature, drawn by the Renaissance fascination with themes of beauty, purity, and human fallibility. Shakespeare, ever attuned to the nuances of myth, invoked Diana as the unattainable, the fierce yet fair protector, and the emblem of chastity in his works. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, he weaves references to Diana throughout, invoking her as the goddess who watches over the enchanted woods, a place where boundaries between dreams and reality blur. Her presence in his works hints at the sacred and unpredictable side of nature, a force both beautiful and beyond human control. The Romantics, with their profound reverence for nature and their fascination with untamed beauty, were equally captivated by Diana. Poets like John Keats saw in her a reflection of the sublime, an ideal of beauty that is at once alluring and terrifying. Keats's poetry often echoes the myth's longing, the ache for beauty that is, by nature, distant and unyielding. In his yearning verses, Diana becomes more than a myth, she is the face of nature itself, pure, powerful, and indifferent to the desires of mortals who would seek to possess her. Actaeon's fate resonates in these works as a reminder that beauty, when approached without reverence, exacts a heavy price. Through the Victorian age, Diana continued to appear in literature, her legacy expanding into new forms of expression. As writers grappled with changing societal roles and the emergence of new ideas about femininity and autonomy, Diana stood as an enduring figure of female independence and strength. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, a poet of remarkable insight, often hinted at themes of self-possession and the inner sanctum of the female experience. Though she did not reference Diana directly, her work draws on the goddess's spirit, portraying women as strong and self-contained, as keepers of their own sacred boundaries. Diana's influence thus evolved, transforming her from a mythic huntress into a timeless symbol of a woman's right to her own life and choices. In the modern era, Diana and Actaeon's tale has found new relevance, particularly in literature exploring themes of power, autonomy, and respect for nature. As ecological consciousness grows, Diana emerges as a figure who guards the natural world against those who would exploit or defile it. Her image resonates in novels and poetry that celebrate the wild, untouched parts of the earth and caution against humanity's relentless intrusion. Actaeon's transformation, his punishment for breaching Diana's space, serves as a warning of the price nature demands when we fail to honor its sanctity. The goddess herself becomes an emblem of the earth's silent strength, an enduring reminder of the balance that must be maintained between humanity and the world we inhabit. Today, Diana's myth continues to inspire writers, filmmakers, and artists who are drawn to her strength and her mystery. She appears in literature not only as a goddess but as a force of nature, a symbol of the resilience and unyielding spirit of life itself. Her story with Actaeon endures, a timeless reminder that some spaces, like the woods where she bathed, are sacred and must remain inviolable. This myth reaches across time to remind us of the beauty and restraint, the importance of respecting boundaries, and the quiet, terrible power that lies in the heart of all that is truly wild. Diana's legacy in literature speaks to the human heart because it resonates with an ancient truth, a truth about wonder and reverence, about knowing when to approach and when to stand back. She is the light and shadow in the forest, the beauty we admire but cannot hold, the divine that watches and remembers. Through her story, we are reminded of the cost of hubris, of the respect owed to that which is greater than ourselves, and of the profound beauty that lies just beyond our reach, watching with eternal eyes. There's a timelessness in the myth of Actaeon, a story that continues to live, breathe, and evolve in ways that reach into the very soul of human experience. It speaks of boundaries, consequences, and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. But what happens when this ancient myth is retold in our own age, through the lens of modern values and sensibilities? Suddenly, Diana and Actaeon's story transforms, taking on new shades of meaning that touch on autonomy, respect, and the often painful clash between human curiosity and the sanctity of nature. Today, as storytellers revisit Actaeon's tale, they often reframe it in ways that question our assumptions about guilt, punishment, and the right to privacy. Actaeon, the hunter who accidentally witnesses Diana's sacred moment, becomes a symbol of the intruder, someone who crosses an invisible line. In a world that now fiercely debates privacy, consent, and respect, this moment is no longer just about a hunter's curiosity but a broader, deeply human question: when does observation become violation? Modern retellings have shaped Actaeon into a figure whose fate resonates with those who trespass on the personal or sacred spaces of others, sometimes with innocent intentions, but still facing repercussions they could never have foreseen. In some adaptations, Actaeon's story has become a cautionary tale for our digital age, reflecting the dangers of surveillance and intrusion. It speaks to the boundaries we often cross unwittingly in our era of constant connectivity, where lives are exposed, often without consent, to the scrutiny of the world. Actaeon's accidental glance transforms into a metaphor for a modern culture where boundaries are frequently blurred. As Diana unleashes her wrath, the message is clear: there are consequences for seeing what should not be seen. Her fierce response becomes symbolic of reclaiming power, setting an example of defense against those who would steal glimpses into private realms, leaving us with the haunting reminder of what can happen when respect is lost. In other interpretations, Diana is reimagined as a figure of feminine power and autonomy, embodying strength, control, and the unwavering right to define her own space. She becomes more than a goddess of the hunt; she is the guardian of her own being, an emblem of all women and individuals who fiercely protect their right to exist unobserved, unjudged. Through this lens, Actaeon's transformation into a stag, a being suddenly vulnerable and hunted, takes on a profound irony. He becomes an unwilling participant in the very world he once dominated, a reminder of what it feels like to be pursued, observed, and powerless. Diana's actions resonate as a demand for respect for spaces and boundaries that must never be crossed. Modern interpretations have also begun to explore the environmental undertones of the myth, portraying Diana as an emblem of nature itself, pure, untamed, and endangered. Actaeon becomes humanity, armed with curiosity and desire, but sometimes heedless of the costs of crossing into spaces that should remain untouched. In our time, as environmental awareness grows, Diana's punishment of Actaeon is often seen as nature's own retaliation against human encroachment. His transformation into a stag embodies the fragility of all life on Earth, forcing us to confront our own role as both stewards and intruders in a natural world that has its own set of rules and secrets. Diana's wrath is not just the anger of a goddess, but the rage of a world that demands balance, a world that can and will respond to human disregard with devastating power. In more empathetic retellings, Actaeon's character is painted with shades of vulnerability, as someone who, despite his violation, is almost pitiable in his fate. Here, modern storytellers explore themes of remorse, transformation, and unintended consequence. Actaeon's punishment becomes a tragic fall from innocence, highlighting the complex interplay between ignorance and consequence. This version of Actaeon is not a malicious voyeur, but a person who makes a single, unthinking mistake, leading to irreversible consequences. His story is a reminder of how quickly lives can change through a single moment, a reminder that not all transgressions are born from evil, but that even mistakes can be life-altering. This Actaeon appeals to our sense of mercy, to the part of us that believes in forgiveness, even as his tragic end reminds us of the lasting power of choice. Modern adaptations have also given Diana's role greater complexity, sometimes showing her as compassionate yet unyielding. In some versions, she is aware of the inevitability of Actaeon's fate but saddened by the necessity of it. Her anger, while fierce, is portrayed with an underlying sorrow, a sense of duty to protect her sanctuary even as it pains her to punish a mortal who has overstepped. This interpretation of Diana embodies the idea that those who protect must sometimes make difficult decisions to maintain the sanctity of what they guard. She is a protector, not for the sake of vengeance, but for the preservation of something irreplaceable, something that would be lost if left unguarded. Here, Diana becomes not only a figure of strength but of deep wisdom, reminding us of the high cost of protecting sacred spaces in a world that often fails to recognize their value. Contemporary adaptations breathe new life into the myth, not only by adding layers of empathy and nuance, but by connecting ancient truths to the complex realities we face today. Diana and Actaeon's story, in modern retellings, reveals as much about us as it does about them, forcing us to ask ourselves difficult questions. Do we respect the unseen boundaries around us? Are we mindful of the impact of our actions, even when we act without malice? Through this tale, retold for our time, we are reminded of the importance of humility, respect, and the awareness that some spaces, whether in the heart, the mind, or the natural world, are not meant to be trespassed. As this myth unfolds in the light of contemporary values, it leaves us with a haunting awareness of its relevance, of the timeless truths within it. We see ourselves in Actaeon's curiosity and feel the weight of Diana's resolve, knowing that the dance between reverence and consequence is one we all must navigate. And so, the story endures, speaking in new ways to each generation, as every retelling becomes a mirror, revealing more about who we are and the boundaries we are willing, or unwilling, to honor. In the world of myth, Diana stands as an embodiment of an untamed, formidable force, a goddess who captures the beauty and intensity of feminine power. She is not merely a figure of divine grace or allure, she is a guardian, a protector, and a reminder of the strength and resilience that lies within the feminine spirit. Hers is a presence that demands respect, her very being woven with the ancient power of creation, destruction, and renewal. To understand Diana is to feel the pulse of nature itself, fierce and unyielding, yet nurturing and eternal. Diana's essence touches on the deepest expressions of the divine feminine, a power that doesn't seek dominance but instead upholds balance. Her presence exudes authority without the need for conquest. She commands through the purity of her purpose, standing steadfast as a force of nature. In the quiet moments under the moonlight, or in the ferocity of the hunt, she reveals facets of femininity that are often hidden, the raw, unfiltered strength that protects and the wisdom that knows when to wield it. As the goddess of the hunt and the moon, Diana is both fierce and serene, embodying the natural rhythms of life, death, and rebirth that have guided countless generations. Her dominion over these realms is a reminder that power can be silent and steady, as much a part of nature as the earth itself. Through Diana, the divine feminine takes form as a symbol of self-sufficiency and unbreakable will. Unlike other gods who wield power for glory, Diana is her own fortress, needing nothing but her bow, her wits, and the wild forest that surrounds her. She is fierce loyalty to herself and to her values, a testament to the strength found in independence. Her refusal to be contained or subdued speaks to the strength that often lies dormant in the feminine spirit, a quiet courage that rises to protect, to defend, to stand undeterred. For centuries, women have looked to Diana as a symbol of this inner fortitude, seeing in her the reflection of their own ability to hold their ground, to protect their own peace, and to move through the world without the need for external validation. Diana's archetype also carries a nurturing aspect, though it is a nurturing unlike any other. Hers is a guardianship, not just of the forest creatures but of the natural order itself. She protects with a fierceness that brooks no violation, her love for the forest both maternal and fierce. Just as a mother will defend her young, Diana stands as the fierce protector of her realm, her presence a boundary against those who would disrupt its sacred balance. This maternal strength doesn't coddle, it strengthens, guiding those under her watch to grow in alignment with nature's laws. Her protection is both a blessing and a warning. Respect what is sacred, for to cross these boundaries is to invite consequences as powerful and unyielding as the goddess herself. Throughout myth, the divine feminine often bears the duality of light and shadow, and Diana is no exception. She is both hunter and nurturer, protector and avenger. Her role as the goddess of the moon brings a profound connection to the cycles of time and transformation. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, Diana's powers too reflect the shifting tides of life. This connection to the moon ties her deeply to mystery and intuition, aligning her with the parts of the feminine that are often unseen but deeply felt. Hers is the strength that exists quietly, the resilience that survives against all odds, the wisdom that knows when to act and when to let things unfold in their own time. In Diana, we see the divine feminine as an untamed spirit, a reminder of the beauty and strength in embracing one's own nature. She is unapologetically herself, never bending to the expectations or judgments of others. Her autonomy speaks to a truth that resonates across cultures and time, that feminine power does not require permission, that it exists independently, rising and falling like the tides, shining and retreating like the moon. Diana's freedom, her unwillingness to be claimed or controlled, has inspired generations to seek their own paths, to define their own worth, and to protect the sacred within themselves. She reminds us that there is strength in self-possession, in knowing one's value and guarding it fiercely. Through Diana, we catch a glimpse of femininity that is both primal and eternal. She is the embodiment of a power that is both fierce and compassionate, protective and independent. Hers is a spirit that embodies the beauty of contradiction, the softness and the strength, the nurturing and the ferocity, the quiet wisdom and the resounding command. Diana's legacy reminds us that these aspects of the feminine are not oppositional but complementary, creating a wholeness that is as complex as it is beautiful. She is the goddess who walks alone, yet her footsteps echo in the hearts of those who know the power of standing firm in their own truth. The divine feminine, as Diana represents it, is a power that does not seek to dominate but to coexist. She is not one to conquer, but neither does she submit. She stands equal to all, embodying the balance between giving and withholding, between action and rest. Her divine femininity is a force that understands its own value, a power that is patient yet unbreakable. Diana is a goddess of the hunt, but her arrows are not meant to wound for sport. They protect what is sacred, what is vulnerable, what is valuable beyond words. Through her, we see a feminine strength that does not need validation, a power that knows itself and needs no witness to affirm it. In her presence, we feel the quiet power of autonomy, the steady strength of someone who knows their worth and guards it fiercely. Diana's legacy in myth speaks not only to her strength, but to the enduring nature of feminine power itself, a power that survives in every woman, every person who holds within them the spirit of self-respect, independence, and protection of what is sacred. Through her myth, Diana reminds us that there is divinity in the feminine, a holiness in the strength that stands silent, in the courage that protects fiercely, and in the wisdom that knows when to hold ground and when to release. And so, Diana remains timeless, an archetype of the divine feminine that transcends cultures and ages, a figure of strength and grace that resonates with the very core of what it means to be both powerful and nurturing, fierce and compassionate. Her spirit endures in those who walk their own path, who honor their own boundaries, and who protect the sacred spaces within and around them. Through Diana, we see that the divine feminine is not just a part of mythology, it is a force within us all, waiting to rise, to stand, and to protect what is cherished, respected, and loved. In moments of turmoil, celebration, or change, societies have always turned to stories to give meaning to their experiences. Myths emerged not just as tales of heroes and gods, but as powerful narratives that blend the rawness of history with the colors of imagination. These myths don't merely entertain, they shape identities, solidify values, and give voice to the hopes and fears of their time. They become woven into the very fabric of a culture, leaving echoes that reach beyond their origin, touching people across generations and borders. In every myth, there is a piece of history, an event, a hero, a tragedy, that serves as its core. Even in the story of Diana and Actaeon, we see reflections of ancient societies grappling with questions of respect, boundaries, and divine authority. The people who passed down these stories wanted more than tales of the gods, they wanted lessons to guide them, a mirror to reflect their own lives and choices. The myth of Actaeon warned of the costs of trespassing into sacred spaces, teaching respect for both the natural and the divine, a lesson as relevant to the people of ancient Greece and Rome as it is today. Myths and history are often seen as opposites, one is pure fiction and the other is fact, but they coexist and nourish one another. Historical events often give rise to myths, which in turn amplify the memory of those events. Think of the ancient Greek myths inspired by real wars and struggles, like the Trojan War. These weren't just tales of heroism but became ways for people to express national pride, to remember their ancestors' bravery, and to make sense of the sacrifices that their people endured. A single event, when filtered through myth, transformed into something larger than life, a beacon that held both inspiration and caution. For centuries, myths have carried not only the past, but also the beliefs and values that guided entire civilizations. They reflect the worldviews of those who first told them, illustrating the roles of men and women, heroes and villains, in ways that taught others how to live. These myths shaped laws, traditions, and everyday life. Take the tale of Prometheus, who defied Zeus to give fire to humanity. That single act of defiance against authority resonated through the ages, symbolizing the courage to challenge injustice and the sacrifices often demanded by progress. For the ancient Greeks, this wasn't just a story about punishment, it was a message that even in their society, innovation and boldness had to be balanced with respect for limits. But the power of myths reaches even further. Myths not only record the struggles and triumphs of their time, they adapt, taking on new meanings as cultures change. In Rome, for instance, where loyalty to the state was paramount, Greek myths were reinterpreted to emphasize loyalty, duty, and reverence for Rome. The tales of Hercules, a Greek hero, were retold to emphasize his loyalty to the gods and his sense of duty, reflecting the values of Roman culture and giving Romans a hero they could see as their own. Myths become lenses through which each society sees itself, reflecting not only its past but its present values and beliefs. Every myth is a mosaic, a collection of moments that are shaped by the hands of countless storytellers. These storytellers may have altered small details, adapting the myth to their time and people, but the essence remains. And as these myths spread, they become shared treasures, symbols of universal truths and collective struggles. The story of Diana, for example, is not confined to the ancient Greeks or Romans. It resonates with cultures around the world, reflecting a deep, almost primal need to find balance between humanity and nature, freedom and restraint. Her story speaks of the human quest for harmony, an eternal theme that countless cultures have recognized and revered. In this weaving of history and myth, cultural identity finds its roots. The myths a society holds dear reveal its heart, its fears, and its aspirations. They provide the tools for understanding a shared past, and they offer guidance for the future. Myths are passed from one generation to the next, not just as relics of an ancient past, but as living stories that continue to evolve. They remind people of who they are, where they come from, and the values that bind them together. They give shape to cultural identity, anchoring people in a shared history even as the world around them changes. As these myths touch the lives of generation after generation, they continue to shape societal norms. They influence art, literature, and even laws, defining what is considered honorable or dishonorable, sacred or profane. Think of the many heroes who have inspired real people to acts of bravery, or the villains who have become symbols of evil. Even today, characters from ancient myths inspire movies, books, and art, speaking to the timelessness of these stories and the values they carry. People still look to them to make sense of love, war, betrayal, sacrifice, and redemption. Myths are more than just echoes of history, they are vessels of humanity's greatest dreams and darkest fears. They remind us that the struggles we face today are not new, that others before us have faced the same challenges and asked the same questions. The story of Actaeon, the hunter who became the hunted, reminds us of our relationship with nature, with power, and with the unseen forces that guide our lives. It serves as a warning, a reminder, a memory of a time when humanity was still learning its place in the world. Through myths, history becomes something more than dates and events, it becomes alive with meaning. These stories remind us that we are all connected, part of a larger narrative that stretches back to the dawn of humanity. They tell us that our struggles, our joys, and our dreams are not ours alone but are shared across generations and cultures. In this way, the intersection of myth and history becomes a bridge, linking the past with the present and guiding us toward the future. In every corner of the world, stories of mortals and gods crossing paths linger in ancient memory. These myths come alive with warnings, whispers of fate, and echoes of human curiosity pressing against the boundaries of the divine. Actaeon's tragic story is not isolated, it resonates with tales from distant lands, where humans, driven by wonder or pride, find themselves facing forces far greater than they imagined. Actaeon's fate begins when he glimpses Diana, the goddess of the hunt, in her most private moment. That single look, accidental or not, transforms him into a stag, leaving him vulnerable to his own hunting hounds. His transformation serves as a punishment for his intrusion, an abrupt reminder that even unintentional trespass can provoke wrath. This theme of transformation as retribution is not unique to Greece. Countless cultures share tales that caution humanity about the fine line between reverence and transgression. In Celtic mythology, we encounter the haunting story of Ceridwen and Gwaun Bach. Gwaun accidentally tastes from Ceridwen's cauldron, which grants divine knowledge. Furious, Ceridwen transforms into various animals to pursue him, with Gwaun doing the same to escape. Finally, she swallows him, and he is reborn as the poet Taliesin. The theme here is familiar: an innocent act meets an overwhelming force, and a mortal is forever changed, initiated into wisdom at a heavy price. While Actaeon's story ends in tragedy, Gwaun's transformation brings rebirth. Yet, both tales serve as warnings of the boundary between human and divine knowledge, between mortal curiosity and the realms beyond. In Japan, an ancient tale of a similar nature emerges in the story of Tsukuyumi, the moon god. He was once banished from the company of his divine peers after he violated a sacred space, disrupting the delicate balance that deities uphold. Though his transgression was different from Actaeon's, it emphasizes a recurring theme: mortal or god, no one is free from consequence when it comes to matters of respect for the divine. Just as Actaeon suffers for his accidental gaze, Tsukuyumi's punishment is permanent exile, a separation from harmony and peace. In Norse myth, the gods too are guardians of sacred boundaries. One story tells of Thor, who, driven by pride, violates sacred oaths and traditions in his pursuit of giants. Thor's fate is not so different from Actaeon's. He, too, becomes a hunted figure in the eyes of his adversaries. While he escapes through his strength, there remains a lingering sense of foreboding, a reminder that to trespass into forbidden realms, even for the gods, can bring ruin and despair. Native American myths also touch on this boundary. Among the Lakota, there is the story of Deer Woman, a mysterious spirit that appears to hunters. She is beautiful and enchanting, drawing people in with her grace. But those who follow her are warned to beware, for she can lead them deep into the forest, where they lose their way and never return. Dear Woman, like Diana, represents the wildness of nature, and those who forget her power face dire consequences. Her beauty, like Diana's, is both a lure and a reminder that nature has a will beyond human control. She symbolizes the forest's quiet demand for respect, a demand that, when ignored, leads to a painful end. Even in the Indian epic, Mahabharata, there's a story of Eklavya, a boy of the forest who observes a master archer from afar and copies his techniques. Eventually, the teacher discovers him and demands a terrible price for this uninvited gaze. Though not a literal transformation, Eklavya's fate is sealed by his innocent trespass. Like Actaeon, he loses a part of himself, a reminder of the price humanity pays when it steps too close to sacred spaces or knowledge without invitation. These myths, though diverse in culture and landscape, echo the theme of transformation as both punishment and revelation. A mortal gaze, whether innocent or daring, becomes a spark that ignites the fury of divine forces. In each story, humanity is reminded of its vulnerability, its place within a world that holds secrets and power far beyond its grasp. In Actaeon's transformation into a stag, we witness the moment when a person loses not only his shape but also his sense of control, his place in his own world. His hounds, his former companions, become his pursuers, and there is something achingly human in his fate, how quickly familiarity turns to danger, how swiftly identity slips away. Each myth that shares this essence reminds us of the delicate boundary that separates humanity from the unknown and the unseen forces that guard it. These stories, told and retold, resonate because they speak to something universal. They warn of consequences when humans, knowingly or not, stray into the sacred spaces of gods or spirits. Whether it's a moment of curiosity, pride, or accidental trespass, the result is often irreversible, leaving the characters changed forever. The myths, drawn from so many different cultures, connect us through a shared recognition of our limitations, our wonder, and the tension that arises when we reach beyond our boundaries. Through tales like Actaeon's, humanity has been reminded of its fragility, its place within a world that is as awe-inspiring as it is treacherous. To approach the divine, even accidentally, is to step into a realm where human rules do not apply. Each myth tells us that there are boundaries for a reason, that the divine and the natural world command respect, and that to ignore this is to invite transformation, loss, or sometimes, a glimmer of wisdom bought at a high price. These stories linger not only because of the power of the divine, but because of what they reveal about ourselves. In each myth, there is a truth about human nature, a curiosity that leads us toward danger, a respect that borders on fear, and an unspoken understanding that some knowledge lies beyond reach. And so, Actaeon, Gwayan, Thor, and countless others stand as figures transformed by a single moment, reminding us of the beauty and peril that exist side by side in the unknown. It's a story as ancient as time, yet it still reaches into the heart with its haunting grip, a hunter named Actaeon, his unintentional glimpse of the goddess Diana, and the cruel, inescapable transformation that follows. Something about this myth never fades. It speaks of boundaries, curiosity, punishment, and power, elements that feel as relevant now as they did centuries ago. The tale has woven itself into art, literature, and everyday storytelling, refusing to vanish into history. Actaeon's story holds something for everyone, the artist, the philosopher, the dreamer, and even the skeptic. What strikes us first is the tragedy of a moment that changes everything. Actaeon wasn't seeking mischief or rebellion, he simply stumbled upon something he wasn't meant to see. Who hasn't felt that accidental trespass? Who hasn't crossed an invisible line, realizing only afterward how costly that innocent step might be? His story reminds us that our lives can be altered forever by a single unintended moment, by something as simple as a curious glance. In a world where privacy feels more fragile than ever, where people are exposed in ways they didn't choose, the myth resonates deeply. It reflects the vulnerability of having our lives, intentions, and even mistakes caught in an unflinching, unforgiving gaze. Diana, with all her strength, beauty, and rage, stands as a timeless symbol of power that doesn't forgive. Her punishment of Actaeon serves as a stark reminder of the balance between grace and vengeance, a reminder that respect must be paid, that there are spaces meant to be left untouched. There's an undeniable allure in her character, fierce, untamed, demanding respect from anyone who crosses her path. She becomes a symbol of something sacred and untouchable, a goddess who reminds us that not everything is for human eyes, and some spaces must remain hidden. In a world where people are always seeking more, Diana's presence in the myth warns us to hold back, to remember that some mysteries are better left undisturbed. Contemporary culture is filled with reflections of Actaeon's story. Every tale of curiosity gone wrong, of punishment for a line crossed, mirrors his fate. We see it in literature and film, where protagonists often pay dearly for daring to see too much or to push the limits of what they should know. In thrillers, horror stories, and even cautionary tales, the themes of boundary and consequence pulse with the same intensity. Actaeon's story serves as a metaphor for modern life, where the thirst for knowledge, power, and even fame can lead us into dangerous territory. It captures the thrill of discovery, but also the peril of going too far. The myth of Diana and Actaeon also speaks to the heart of human relationships. How many times has someone felt the sting of betrayal when another person saw something hidden, something they weren't meant to see? It echoes the vulnerabilities in our closest connections, where sometimes boundaries are breached without intent, leading to heartbreak or resentment. The story holds an empathy for those moments of unintended exposure, where we accidentally witness something private, something that forever changes our view of someone or something else. In these moments, the myth lives on, reminding us of the weight of seeing and being seen. And yet, the myth endures not just for its lessons, but for its raw, unforgettable imagery. Actaeon's transformation into a stag, the shift from hunter to hunted, captures the terror of suddenly being powerless. In those moments when life turns, when control slips through our fingers, when we are no longer the ones deciding our fate, we feel his dread. He, who once ruled the forest with bow and arrow, becomes a helpless creature, vulnerable and chased by his own hounds. The horror and sadness of that reversal linger in our minds because they reflect every moment when we feel hunted by our own choices, by forces that once served us but now pursue us. In a world where power and exposure intersect daily, Diana's fierce protection of her privacy carries a particular weight. She stands as a reminder that power is not always soft, that sometimes strength means enforcing boundaries with a vengeance. There's something almost awe-inspiring about her reaction. She doesn't flinch, doesn't hesitate. Her wrath is swift, her power absolute. She reminds us that sometimes, protecting what's sacred requires a response that may seem harsh but is, in its own way, necessary. The appeal of the myth extends beyond individuals to entire cultures. Diana's fierce independence, her refusal to compromise, resonates in contemporary conversations about autonomy, privacy, and respect. She becomes a symbol for anyone who has ever drawn a line, anyone who has felt the need to guard what's theirs, anyone who believes in their right to defend their own space. Diana's legacy endures because she embodies a force that society still grapples with, the balance between protecting oneself and being open, between sharing beauty and keeping it sacred. Her image as the goddess who demands respect for her boundaries echoes in modern movements for personal and social autonomy. For Actaeon, the story is not just about punishment, it's about transformation, about becoming something entirely different because of a single, irrevocable act. He becomes a stag, an image that captures the feeling of being out of place in one's own life, of suddenly being something else entirely. In a fast-changing world, where roles and identities shift, where control can slip away with a single glance or decision, Actaeon's transformation speaks to our fears and our wonder about change itself. To become the very thing you once pursued is to live a nightmare that many understand, a nightmare where we no longer recognize ourselves, where the hunter becomes the prey. As the myth of Diana and Actaeon continues to live in art, literature, and human emotion, it serves as a mirror to the complexities of human life, of curiosity, boundaries, power, and the consequences of crossing lines that may seem invisible but are there, waiting. It speaks to the universal need for both closeness and distance, the pull between wonder and respect. It's a story that lives because it touches on those edges of human experience, the ones that blur and shift, and where we are forced to confront the boundaries that hold us together and keep us apart. In the shadows of ancient forests, where stories live and breathe, the tale of Diana and Actaeon has lingered, echoing through time with a haunting beauty and a stark warning. This is no ordinary myth. It's a tale that holds the power of the gods and the frailty of man within its heart, casting a light on what happens when boundaries are crossed, when reverence meets curiosity, and when one glimpse can change everything. Actaeon, the bold hunter, was just another soul roaming the wild, until he stumbled upon a sight not meant for mortal eyes. He came face to face with Diana, the goddess of the hunt, in a moment of pure, unintended vulnerability. What followed was a momentary breach that transformed both their fates forever. Diana, fierce and unapologetic, embodies a divine authority that is as thrilling as it is terrifying. Her wrath is absolute, and her punishment, swift. This is not a story where mortals challenge gods with arrogance or defiance. It's a tale where one look, one unintended moment, unravels a destiny. What drives us to peek beyond what is safe? Is it wonder, is it pride, or perhaps, is it the human instinct to chase after the forbidden? Actaeon's gaze upon Diana carries the weight of that question. We feel his regret, his terror, and maybe even a sense of injustice as his body begins to morph into that of a stag. The transformation captures something deep and tragic about human nature, the way a single moment, one act, can turn our lives upside down, making us strangers in our own skin, hunted by our own choices. As Diana watches her vengeance unfold, there is no kindness, no hesitation. In her eyes, justice is complete. Her power is a reminder of something untamed within the cosmos, something that doesn't bend to human notions of mercy. And yet, she's more than a figure of wrath. She's a protector, a guardian of her own sanctity. She becomes a symbol of the sacred that demands respect, that commands an unbroken space around it. In her, there is a voice for all that must remain untouched, for those parts of life and nature that should never be claimed, captured, or trespassed upon. The myth reminds us that some boundaries are not made for breaking, they are meant to remain as they are, invincible. The hunters, Actaeon's own hounds, turn against him. It's a scene as heartbreaking as it is brutal, a twist of fate that leaves us breathless. He, who once led them with pride, now stands helpless as they close in, driven by instincts they can't resist. We are left with the chilling realization that sometimes, what we once controlled, what we once trusted, can turn and consume us when we least expect it. The dog's loyalty, now turned into a relentless pursuit, speaks to the cruelty of fate, the way life's constants can shift without warning, leaving us vulnerable and alone. Throughout time, the story has been a mirror to the human soul. In every era, people have turned to it, finding pieces of themselves in its shadows. Its influence seeps into art, literature, and philosophy. The tension between respect for the sacred and the thrill of curiosity remains as relevant today as it did thousands of years ago. We see it in stories that question the limits of science, ethics, privacy, and even love, those timeless themes that urge us to consider the cost of our desires and the importance of boundaries. The legacy of Diana and Actaeon lives on because it touches something raw and real. Diana's wrath embodies a force beyond human control, a reminder that not everything is for us to possess or understand. Actaeon's fate, tragic and irreversible, speaks to the fragility of our own power, our tendency to push just a little too far, and the cost that often follows. It's a story that brings us face to face with the uncomfortable truth that there are forces greater than us, forces that we must respect if we are to live in harmony with the world around us. As we walk through our own lives, perhaps we, too, carry pieces of this myth. In our reverence for nature, in our respect for each other's boundaries, and in the moments when we pause before crossing a line we're unsure of, Diana and Actaeon are there, whispering caution, reminding us of the cost of trespass. The tale may be ancient, but its spirit is as alive as ever, woven into the fabric of our choices and the quiet understanding that sometimes, wonder must be balanced with respect. And so, the myth endures, a testament to the power of story, of consequence, and of reverence for the unknowable. Diana and Actaeon remain with us, in the places where mystery meets caution, where beauty must be observed from a distance, and where our own humanity reflects back to us in the shadowed depths of myth.